welcome to Them's Writin Words, a podcast discussing selected fanfictions from the world of pastel horse literature. My name is Scribbler, and I will be your moderator today. Joining me for this discussion, we have... Discussion? Fucking what? Joining me for this... Discussion. Fucking, I nearly did. I nearly got it all.
Discussion. You need to keep that in now.
The discussion.
That discussion.
Oh, God.
Oh, that discussion.
Apparently Applejack is just, wormed her way into this already. Okay, joining me for this discussion, we have Ilya Leonov.
Hello, everyone.
Neighrator Pony.
Hello, everyone.
I nearly got your name wrong, yeah.
You also narrator?
It's because I'm used to calling you by your real name. I'm sorry, do you want me to do that one again?
No, just go!
Sunny!
That's it.
And our Fic Picker, the Lost Narrator.
This is going to turn into such clusterfuck.
And Niall of the Nine as not appearing in this picture. Right. Today, we're laughing so much we're actually looking at a GRIMDARK. Today, we're looking at the fanfic La Pomme Boutique by Magpiepony, as chosen by her wife, the Lost Narrator. The synopsis reads... Lost, do you want to read it?
Oh man, I get to struggle. Great. Okay.
Look, my pain is your pain in this.
It was going to just be another boutique, another expansion of Rarity's fashion empire. However, this building was a sordid and this building has a sordid and terrifying history that she purposefully shrugged off as a mere myth. Now she is trapped inside this haunted building with Applejack, fighting the nightmares. Now she is trapped inside this haunted building with Applejack, fighting the nightmare it assaults her with at every turn. Is it coming for her? Or what is coming for her? What is she running from? What dark secrets lie beneath and between these walls? That was a struggle.
We are so professional. Question, where she says this building has a sordid... Did she mean sordid or sorted?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Although
not gonna...
that could work.
I mean, they both work. I just was curious.
She probably meant... I'm not gonna...
Excellent mouth.
You're not... Look, okay, you warned Mag going into this.
Yeah. No, I did
That
warn
we
her.
are nitpicky as fuck.
Like I said, she is looking forward to everyone telling her she's trash. So if the fact that I didn't even catch the shit with the summary, because like I said, I did a reading of this. I helped her edit some of this. I didn't catch that.
So it's your fault.
It's my fault. It's my fault as well.
This is just the lost editing pass.
So on this note, the story was published on 31st of October 2019, coinciding with Lost's reading of it, and clocks in at 13,681 words. Sorry, needed to pause to burp. Excuse me.
And to choke too, apparently.
Yes.
It's lesbian suffering hours.
It's fucking Little Mint back again.
We're being haunted. Perfect.
We are being haunted by Little Mint, the ghosts of podcasts past. Right, okay. So, going forward.
Oh my god, that's
into
such
this.
a great idea for Aprilverse. Sorry.
What? What?
We do Christmas Carol, but it's Aprilverse. Sorry. Keep going.
Lost.
Why did I get moved to the AFK?
I don't know. What did you do?
No, it said you moved me by the admin. You moved me. Yes, it did. It says you were moved to Scribbler's Mumble server by admin. You're
Now I moved her. That time I moved you.
Children.
We have made it to the synopsis, an hour in.
We are 5 minutes into this recording that's actually going into the podcast. To be fair, for anyone listening, we have not recorded one of these since the 30th of May, 2020. It is currently the 7th of March, 2021. We're a bit out of practice.
Clearly out of practice.
Yes, but the thing we're not out of practice with is me going off the rails and you becoming the actual moderator of the chat.
Story was published.
Yeah, we've already said that. Story was published in 2019. So, we're going to go through with the non-spoilery bit of the review to begin with, and then we'll go on to the spoilers. Now, I notice only my notes were in here, so if anybody wants to add anything to the discussion that they want to talk about before we actually get going.
Is that because you forgot to post the
Yes.
Google Doc with the notes until earlier this morning, like a few hours ago?
I was like, at least you own it. At least you own it.
I'm not going to deny this. I thought I'd posted it and so would just toddle along with my life and then went, oh shit, I never did.
I would have loved to see what would have happened if I hadn't pointed out that you hadn't posted it yet. We all get here and you're like, oh fuck!
So, oh fuck, I never gave you the doc! Ah! So it was just like a delayed version of that. Anyway, I tried to be as thorough as I could be with the remarks, but if anybody wants to add anything that they want to discuss, by all means, so it doesn't seem like I, on my own, solely am inventing things to nitpick out of Magpie's fic. I would like to be able to still call her a friend at the end of this. Starting with spoiler-free tags. Do we believe they are accurate? The primary tags are horror, mystery, and thriller, and the secondary tags are gore, violence, suicide/self-harm, death, and profanity. So if anybody's listening to this fic reading and any of those are triggers, do not go listen to us going forward because we're going to talk about this. Right, so we'll start at the rear end of where I started for introducing people. Sunny, do you think that these tags are accurate?
Oh fuck, I wasn't ready. I thought you were gonna go lost first.
No, and
yeah.
also please don't judge me for calling you the rear end of
Fuck you. It tags.
Hang on, no. You're the one who implied terrible things about me. You get to go first now.
We are an hour in. Let me answer.
I've gone quiet.
Oh, it's so sad. Okay, tags. Yes, I think they're accurate. I particularly appreciate that romance was not one of them.
For reasons you will get to later. Neighrator, what do you think?
Sure. I pay so little attention to tags, I'll be honest. I hardly ever. Yeah, those all look accurate.
Ilya?
I believe this is actually the first time that I've ever positively agreed with every tag. I think they're perfect.
And Lost?
I agree. Though the profanity one, I think there's only like 2.
No, there's one. No, you're right, there's 2.
There's
one
2.
with red herring and one with Rarity saying, you piece of shit!
Yeah, that's it. I like, because in my brain I'm thinking like that's like, like in daytime TV, there's like there's a certain like quota of how many you can get away with before they start saying profanity. So I think that's the only one. But like other than that, yeah, I agree with all the tags, and I do. It was intentional that Mag left out romance for things we'll discuss later.
I agree with them. I actually, like MP, don't pay that much attention to tags when I've encountered a fic through audio first. That's generally, I just assume anything that you post on Halloween Lost is going to be a grimdark. So I don't pay attention to the rest of it. So I will say, yeah, I agree with them. I'll be honest, the profanity one I thought you probably could have done away with because 2 swear words in a fic about lesbians dying is like, it seems like of the things you're going to warn people about, Rarity saying shit at one point is like on the lesser scale.
I was gonna say that was a bit spoily. A spoiler, like the
lesbians die in this. We know it's about ponies, so by default, every single member of the main 6 is a lesbian, and it's a grimdark. Of course, there's death. Okay, right. Sorry.
That was adorable. Jesus Christ.
I know, right?
Shut up. Shut up. I can't help when I squeak. Stop it. Oh, shut up. Right, okay. Summary of the story. Lost. You get to take over while I find a tissue to blow my nose.
Okay. Poor haggard thing.
Right, you get to describe the plot in a non-spoilery way since this was your choice. Go.
All right. We will. I remembered that from the last one, so I actually wrote a Cliff Notes summary. Way ahead of you. So it starts off with Fluttershy going to Salt Lick City to help Rarity to prepare for her the next opening of her next boutique, the Pomme Boutique. When she gets there, their interactions are normal except for that night where Fluttershy tries to see how Rarity's actually doing and states that everybody in Ponyville misses her. Rarity states that she's just been busy. And when Fluttershy tries to bring up that she hasn't talked to Sweetie Belle and that Sweetie Belle's been writing her, Rarity dismisses it and just says that, oh, the letters have been getting lost in the mail and I've just been such a busy pony and all that stuff. When Fluttershy leaves, little things start to pop up around the building because Rarity is still trying to prepare it. But since the building's in such poor state, the roof's leaking and it's a hot mess. But she was anticipating, I believe, Rainbow Dash showing up to help her, but instead Applejack shows up to help her prepare for the rest of the building. But as they continue to explore it and try to set it up, things become apparent that there's something really wrong with the building and that there's a deep, disturbing history with it. That's sort of the non-spoiler summary because this is before spoilers. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary, huh?
Yeah. So anybody who's listening to us, if you want to go and listen to it or read it for yourselves, do so now because we're crossing the spoiler threshold. I just want people's overall impressions of the story. Neighrator.
It's a good spooky story. If you came for like a spooky kind of grimdark kind of story, and that's what you were looking for on Lost Channel, then you're gonna have a good time.
Sunny?
It has a major plot hole that I just find really funny.
Oh, okay, we'll keep that one. Ilya,
Overall
what
good.
do you think?
Overall good. Okay, go.
Overall good. Okay. Ilya?
Well, it got good at the end. I spent a good deal of the story confused. I thought I was trying to connect it chronologically and it just didn't seem to work. At the end, I figured out why, but there was a little bit too much confusion during the bulk of the reading for me to enjoy it the first time through. I think the second time through was much better.
Okay, Lost, what do you think? Given you've got comparisons of you produced the reading and also you've adapted so many others of Mag's works, I want you to think about it from the lens of how does it compare to the others?
Oh, how does it compare to the others?
Yeah.
I would say that this one, like if I was to grade it, I would say this is a B+. When I'm comparing it to the others, Apple Sleep is still like top tier when I'm like comparing it to all the other fics that Mag has written and that I've produced. Actually listening back to this, because like I said, this is my second time actually revisiting the readings. Because one thing I don't ever really talk about, I don't listen to a lot of the bigger readings over again because I get caught up in my head because I can hear all the mistakes. But listening back to it, I realized that there were certain parts of it that were really weak. But overall, though, in the sense of like grimdark and like the idea of unrequited love, I really liked that concept, but the pacing though I was realizing in certain parts was very sluggish, and just it could have helped. Like there were certain things that could have been either cut out or changed to have helped not feel like it was such a confusing mess at times. It's one of those stories that like when you listen to it again, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Or, oh, there's that little tidbit. But it's good overall. I like it. And that's not the bias talking because I know that's a thing. But
you've been meaner to it than any of the rest of us. I think you've proven that it's not bias.
No, it's not like because that's the thing. When I look at literature, I try to look at it from an objective perspective. If I was going with my subjective perspective, I love it because it's Jack, but that's a different freaking story. But from a critical stand, I know. Mag told me about your conversation. I know. But like from an objective perspective, especially when it comes to the prose and the pacing and the tonality, pacing is weak at certain points, but the tone, especially like with the writing prose, I really liked it. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer. Yeah.
I agree with some of the things that you said, that the pacing is spotty. There are certain points where I was a bit confused. The transition at the very start between when Fluttershy leaves and Rarity's on her own, and we change second person, when we change third person limited perspective to Rarity.
That's what I'm talking about. That one right there.
Yeah, it took me a few minutes to realize we'd shifted. And I had to go back and start that scene again the first time I listened to it because I wasn't sure. I thought it was Fluttershy still thinking. So that transition is the bit that stood out to me most in a non-spoilery way. But the way I've listened to this thing 3 times now. 1, when it first came out. 2, at Halloween last year, where when I was still doing the commute. My Halloween is like the entire month before as well. So I was commuting, listening to Grimdarks and things to try to get myself in the mood for editing Grimdarks myself. And today, while making cupcakes, preparing for this podcast. And the conclusion I've come to on this is, if you try and look at something like this from a logistical point of view, it falls apart really damn quickly. But if you start looking at this as more of an experience based around mood and emotional resonance, it works a lot better. That was my point of view anyway. We're going to go from spoilers now. So go away, anybody who's not read it. Characterization. Do we feel it's accurate for Rarity, and to a lesser extent, Applejack, Twilight, and Fluttershy? We're going to stick with Rarity to begin with, and then talk about the others sort of together. Would anybody particularly like to go first, talking about Rarity's characterization in this story?
Well, I have something to say about that.
Go on then, Ilya. You go first.
I thought for the most part it was really good. The only thing that took me out of the story was toward the end, where she almost casually moved into death mode. It was like, I was expecting more angst, more anguishing over the transition from, oh my God, what's going on, to, oh, okay, I'll kill me and you too. So it was just sort of...
time to die.
Yeah, it was a little... That was the only thing that I thought was out of character for Rarity. Most of the characters that they had were pretty spot on in there.
Neighrator, what do you think?
Yeah, Rarity was written pretty well and true to the show, I think. I could pretty much see Rarity reacting in that way under those circumstances.
Sunny, what do you reckon?
See, I thought the death scene was actually decently in character, just because I could see Rarity, while actually being super terrified, trying to pull together some grace in the face of a thing she's figured out is probably inevitable. And she did sort of struggle in the sense of like sending the letter off, but not really knowing if it would work. So I felt that there was maybe some more internal things that weren't expanded on as much. It was a bit weird in a narrative that focused so heavily on internal processes to not explore that a bit more, but that didn't bother me too much. I actually felt she was kind of flanderized throughout the fic. I mean, I would imagine some of that is intentional to kind of take her up to the nth for the extra drama, but I don't know that I found her particularly in character, especially this one part, and it's stupid and I fixated on it way too much, but she spells chic as C-H-I-C, and this is maybe more a problem with the prose, but reading it in Rarity's voice, I was instantly taken out. Oh no, she spelled it as C-H-I-Q-U-E. And I spent like 30 minutes on French Google trying to figure out if that was supposed to be some kind of reference to the origins of the word, or if it was like supposed to be Rarity speaking it wrong or something, because just having taken fashion classes and being like obsessed with fashion, like that instantly took me away from the story, and I was like, I have to figure out why this was spelled this way, because no.
Because it really rhymes with boutique.
Right. So yeah, Rarity was, I mean, she was decently in character, but there were parts where I felt she was pretty flanderized. The other characters, Fluttershy was pretty good. She was kind of molded to be what the story needed her to be. Some of what she did felt like it was character breaking for the plot's sake, but I don't necessarily mind that. And Applejack obviously was not perfectly in character, but that was intentional.
Yeah, because it wasn't really Applejack. Lost, what do you reckon?
I was gonna say, we're still talking about Rarity, right? Or are we just are we talking about all the characters now?
we can cross over into talking about all of them now because you're the last person to talk about just Rarity.
Okay.
Oh shit.
I thought Rarity. Well, no, you're fine. You're fine. No, I was like, oh wait, did I miss something? Because like I don't know if you saw on Discord real quick. Niall's gonna be coming in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, no, and you're fine, Sunny. Don't worry. I thought I'd missed something.
Can you tell I'm not awake yet? It's very like I am.
Right. So I thought Rarity was in character. I didn't really have any issues with that. I actually did not catch that with the what is it? The chic part. That is not something I would have caught. I can tell you that right now.
Okay, my Wi-Fi blipped for a second there, and I thought you said the sheep moment. I was like, what the fuck? I don't remember that.
But I thought she was in character. There were certain parts where I was like, yeah, I wish I would have gotten more of an in-depth idea of where Rarity's mind was, especially like at the end where it's like she does go from like, okay, I'm really upset about this and now I'm gonna just off myself. Like you're right. It just goes from like 0 to 60 all of a sudden. You're just like, okay, that doesn't add up as much. But other than that though, I thought she was pretty on point. Twilight and Fluttershy, I thought they were pretty in character as well. For the small parts that they did have. And then Applejack is very out of character, but that is intentional, considering that, it's not Applejack. So, I guess the better question is Applejack the Applejack entity? Like the house, like, is it actually like being utilized correctly?
Well, there were portions of the story where the real Applejack did appear. The memories that Rarity was shown specifically. So there were portions where there was a real Applejack, especially their argument about the cider press and things like that.
Not necessarily, because...
Oh, in which case that was not clear.
Yeah, no, that's one of the weaknesses, because Sunny had talked to Mag, and then Mag had relayed it to me, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that when Mag had written it. That the perspectives of the memories are actually from Rarity's perspective. So there's a narrator bias going on, which is not specified in the original story. So that's why I was like, oh, okay. Well, I wish I had known that, because I probably would have, for myself, because since I was doing the audio adaptation, I would have done something differently with the audio from the memory to make it apparent that something's off.
Yeah, and also you played Applejack, so you probably would have played her a bit different.
I would have played her very differently. So, hindsight, whatever.
See, that was my major issue with that. I actually thought that Applejack was pretty in character in places. So if that was meant to be the entity failing at its Applejack impression, that was not clear. Because I legitimately at some points thought she was an actual ghost. So, yeah, that throws into confusion the point I was going to make.
I'll be honest, I'm only realizing that just now that you mentioned it. Right. Okay,
so we're all in agreement. It wasn't just me having a dumb moment. Yeah, all right. So we've pointed out that's a weakness, that it wasn't clear. The identities in places. Regarding Rarity's characterization, I'm trying to think the best way of putting this into words, and I think Sunny probably did it better than I could with the idea of it being flanderized. That her personality, when you know by the end that she is sunk into deep, deep denial, it makes a lot more sense the way that she is in the earlier parts of the story. Which is one of the reasons I say that if you try and look at the logic of this story, it doesn't work. But if you're looking just at the emotional experience of it, it does make more of a difference. That we've all of us in our lives had those moments where we are thoroughly in denial about something that we've had to accept thereafter. And this was that writ large to me. So she felt flanderized, but it also felt like there was a justification for that flanderization, because she was trying to be a version of herself that she thought other people expected of her, to keep the lie going that everything was fine. And we have a Niall. Hello, Niall. Do we have a Niall?
No, we do. He's here. I think it might. I know there's everyone else has been joining. They've been having issues with their connectivity.
All right then. I've just realised something. I, as moderator, failed utterly because I did not say when we went to spoilers that you tell them the ending. You were supposed to give him the spoilery version. So, Lost, while Niall gets his act together and I get my act together and learn how to fucking do this moderation thing again. Lost, can you tell us the end of the story, please?
Yes, I can. And Niall is working out mic issues.
Okay.
Oh, man. So, after... as they continue to go through the actual building, it becomes apparent that there's something very horrific and disturbing about the building. It is discovered by the underneath of the building in the basement that there are records that show the history of each of the tenants, and they all have the connecting theme that they've all killed themselves in some way, and that they've all had a tragic event basically I guess emotionally cripple them, which is expected considering like some of the events where one of them had lost a foal, another one had lost a a detective partner, and so on and so forth.
Can I interrupt for a second just to ask one question?
Yeah.
Were Red Herring and his partner partners or partners?
They were partners. It was definitely implied. That was...
Yeah, right. Because I'm listening through this thing and thinking, are they a couple?
Oh, yeah, no. That was Mag's intention there. They were definitely a couple.
Killing all the gays.
Okay, all right.
Right?
This entire fic is like, bring out your gays.
Throw them on the fire.
Yes.
We're having a big old gay bonfire. Here we go.
Whew, that is way too historically accurate.
I know. That is why I said it. I just got done watching a 6-hour documentary about this shit.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, go on.
But yeah, so it's discovered that basically everyone who's ever lived in this house has been emotionally crippled by something, and they've all killed themselves. And it is soon discovered that Rarity is running from her own past. Oh, Niall, is that you? I think I hear you.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
we
can.
hear you.
Boom, there we go.
Oh my god, another audio thing. I always love configuring these. Hi.
Right. So it's discovered that Rarity is running from her own past with basically feeling so this is the one thing I actually didn't get the chance to ask Mag this, but Rarity is carrying an immense amount of guilt for the fact that she feels responsible for having ruined the Apple family with the idea of the cider that they were pressing. So that's definitely a thing. But then on top of that as well, she was there the day that the barn went up in flames from a lantern falling over. It's never really specified if it was the lantern or not, but I'm assuming because of Rarity's own perspective. Like I said, it's a lot of the unreliable narrator situation. But she basically has to learn to deal and confront with it. And the Applejack that's in the house with her is not Applejack. It is the entity of the house torturing her. And it ends with Rarity having to finally confront it and confront the idea that she had unrequited feelings for Applejack, and because she knows that she's trapped in this house, she decides to kill herself and destroy the rest of the house with it. And it ends with a Sweetie Belle receiving a letter there was a letter that Rarity had written before the house burned that she slid under the door, and it ends with Sweetie Belle reading it, or Sweetie Belle giving it to Scootaloo to read it, and it basically is like Rarity saying, don't learn from my mistakes. Don't not tell somebody that you love them. And that she finally comes to terms with what she had to deal with before the building. Yeah. And that is my long, rambly summary of the story.
And we end with, actually, there is a gay couple who do survive, and it's Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle.
Yes, there is. The baby gays survive.
Although this is a future fix, they're not so baby there.
A little, just tiny.
I hope not, because they are like literal children in
no,
the show.
like adult baby, whatever. You know what I mean?
Late teens, early 20s.
Yes, there you go.
I mean, they weren't like making out at the end of the fic. I mean, come on.
No, it's very subtle. I didn't catch it until the third read through today that they were meant to be a couple at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those little subtle cues all the way throughout. I worked on editing with Lost and Mag on this for Lost, probably about 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, it was about a month before we did started rolling the ball with the production with like voices and art and everything like that.
Yeah, and there were a lot of little points. I think that's the one thing that they've really improved on, especially in like the last year, is having somebody who's not into the stories and being able to come through and go, where's this thread point going? Where's this make sense? And that, I feel like La Pomme is one of the best works so far that shows that, because there's so many small little side points, especially tied up with all of the different character backgrounds of the ponies that killed themselves, of red herring, because you can't really tell the whole time through whether he's leading her the right way or not, but also all the subpoints between her, Applejack, and even, Twilight as they're going through. And it keeps you guessing, which is one of the funnest parts of working on this fic. It's more of a mystery thriller as well as a horror fanfic, which is a lot of fun.
Which does segue quite nicely onto point 4. Impressions of the prose style. How does the story read? Is it trying to achieve any particular tone? And how well does it achieve this? So, Sunny, you want to go first?
I was actually furiously tapping to try and make a comment on characters and stuff before we moved on.
Oh, go on.
I was trying to tap when we were talking about Applejack, and I just quietly accepted what I was going to
say.
Go on.
Look. Oh, come
on. So, come on. I'm trying to gather my thoughts, woman. So, walking back just for a second to Applejack and Twilight, I want to say that, yeah, we were talking about how she was so in character at times that it didn't tip off that she wasn't supposed to be quite right. I had that problem, especially in the beginning when they were bickering, because that was very in character for Rarejack for me, and it's a big reason why I don't ship them. So my commentary on Rarejack was a lot more critical for this fic before I went to Mag for clarification, because I don't know if we explicitly said, but I did talk to Mag a little bit about just what her authorial intent was, because I picked up that maybe there was a little more going on than I had been able to get on a first read through. So,
is that allowed? Is that cheating? Are you allowed to talk to the author?
In my opinion, it should be ideal. The main reason why I talked to Mag is because I knew, for as much as I try not to be biased, I knew that just going into this very avidly not enjoying Rarejack and not enjoying a lot of fandom interpretations of it, it was going to be hard for me to see how they interact without being critical of the ship as a whole. And I was trying to mitigate that, but I also wanted to know certain aspects of it, like if AJ was meant at any point to be the actual Applejack, or if it was supposed to be the house tricking Rarity the whole way through. And that clarification that at no point was it supposed to be the actual Applejack or anything approximately close to her, that really helped to lighten a lot of my criticisms of the relationship aspect of the fic. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Well, we will talk about those when we get onto the ship. Anybody else want to chime in on Applejack, Twilight, and Fluttershy's characterization before we move on?
Twilight was also pretty out of character for me.
See, I thought Twilight and Fluttershy were like neither in character nor out of character because they were just plot devices.
Yeah, but there comes a point where the character has been broken enough that it's sort of like, did you pick that character for that scene? I feel like Twilight is a little too hyper-fixating, anxious, and gung-ho to just leave a friend who's very obviously going through a super emotional time. So that her scene was a little game-breaking for me.
Yeah, I thought that as well. But that's because like Twilight's one of my favorite characters, so like her characterization I notice a lot when she's out of character. And she would not, especially in her Princess of Friendship version. If this is a future fic, this is when she is tall, McCourty face. She wouldn't have just fucked off, having just learned that Applejack and Rainbow Dash have called it quits and Applejack is really struggling for money. She wouldn't have. She wouldn't. But then again, if that is the house making a memory that Rarity couldn't possibly have known, that makes more sense because it wouldn't know that Twilight was out of character.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get that, but there does come a point where that narrative device starts to feel like a narrative excuse.
Sort of related and sort of not. This scene where Applejack was chiding Rarity for ruining the cider because she put in rotten apples or something. Was that a scene from the show? That one with where
yes,
Rarity
it was
turned
super
into...
squeezy, whatever, with the Flim Flam brothers. Because the idea is when they each got their jobs, Rarity's was to help Granny Smith sort the apples, so it was a callback to that.
But this was the future version because she got distracted by the fancy pants divorce. I assumed anyway. That's how I understood it. It was that it was like a callback.
Yeah, no, that's how it is. It's just the callback. It's not the actual scene from the show. It's a callback because it's happening in the future.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That anything that they're thinking of as a memory is still a future to the show.
Yes.
It also means that like every single moment of this fic was Rarity with the grey in her hair, and I wasn't imagining her that way.
I thought it was. I was thinking it was from that episode with who's that fancy fucking pony that Rarity really wanted to impress by being a country bumpkin. Trenderhoof. I thought it might have been from that one, but I wasn't sure because I've blocked that episode out like Nam. But no, that makes sense. Okay, she was distracted by a gossip rag, and then she ruined a bunch of cider, and then she felt guilty about it. Got it.
Ilya, did you have something to say? Your little blinker flashed.
I don't recall flashing it.
Well,
so what is that? What you told the judge too?
I think that came out a little odd.
Yeah.
Is that what you told the judge too?
I didn't make it any better. Sorry.
I didn't know I was naked.
You didn't. Sorry, your internet cut off and it sounded like I didn't know I was naked.
I so often am.
I'm sorry, it's been so long since we've done one of these. I've got so much bottled up laughter.
One last point on characterization before we move
Go
on. Just because you brought it up, Rarity not paying attention to something that was super important to a friend for random drama, that was one of those instances of flanderization for me. I don't remember that episode that it's referencing. It's been a long time, so I don't know if there actually was any plot thread about her being distracted during that, but if that was purely fic convention, it just struck me as really out of character.
That would be
it was, yeah.
So that was
fic
some
convention.
flanderization for me of, she's the prissy, hoity-toity, cares more about herself than other people, highfalutin Canterlot pony. Whereas,
so season 1 Rarity.
No, not even, because I literally just read a Q&A from Lauren Faust about how she had it in the Bible for Rarity to be written, and she had to constantly fight that kind of characterization because people kept trying to make her more of a priss than she was. So it wasn't even season Rarity specifically because Lauren Faust didn't want her to be written that way. So that was a moment of flanderization for me and an interpretation of Rarity that I just really don't agree with.
I think I agree too, now that you pointed it out. Also, now that I understand what was happening.
Yeah, so one thing that we did build off of, especially Rarity was one of the main focuses when dealing with this, obviously, because she's the main character, was showing the side of her that you don't see in the show, of how she would react to being essentially spurned for something that she wanted. And there have been episodes through the series where she can be petty, she can be short-sighted in small chunks. And the idea with the fic is that she is in the worst depression of her life. She is in denial, extreme regret. She has essentially isolated herself. And I think the idea that we had going into this was, this isn't the Rarity but this is the Rarity if she had gone through what she's gone through in the fic. I feel like that would have been one of Rarity's coping mechanisms, is to pull back. And also the whole thing with Applejack, if she feels that, she loved her and she messed up, she's going to put herself more into her work. She's going to make mistakes. I especially like the idea of her trying to fill the void. I know there's a part in the fic, I think towards the end, where she's talking about she always was trying to find somebody else to fill the void, but she couldn't because she knew she wanted to be with Applejack. I feel like that's a Rarity thing she would do. And you know, it doesn't go with the show Rarity, but once again, the show Rarity is very well put together. She is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, of the main six as far as characterization goes. She's well-rounded. She's not what you see on the surface. She's very empowered as a female. She's an entrepreneur. She's a very good friend. But this is the side of her after she's broken. And everybody has that breaking point. And I think most of us probably know somebody like that, or have been at that point at some point in their life, where it's like you give up on some of your ideals and it's very rough. And we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that would be believable, I guess. So that's the only context I would give is, yeah, this isn't the Rarity you know, but it's because of all the things she's gone through. And I feel like these are the ways she would have reacted.
Two major points against that. One, the scene I was talking about is before Applejack has died. It's the reason why Applejack was mad at her in her mind, and her judgment of her behavior. If anything in this fic is going to be accurate to the past, you would think it would be Rarity thinking about her own perspective and what she was doing. So that character breaking moment was before she had experienced all that grief. Second point, reframe this from the perspective of AJ being a man. If AJ were a boy and this was a fic about Rarity being this strong and empowered person who just happened to love this dude, and then he died and she just went completely to shit and lost all will to be in her hometown, couldn't even look at it, you know, we would think that was really stereotypical, and I'm not sure that I love it just because they're gay.
I don't think it's about them being gay or whether or not AJ is a boy or a girl. I mean, they have a lot of history. It's kind of like having somebody who's been your best friend who turns out to be your sweetheart, and then everything falls apart with that. And also, I think the idea of her leaving the town is because there is a physical reminder, the person that she cared about more than just as somebody she wanted to be with, but who was a dear friend to her. And that's the other thing I think we tried to pull in there too, is to say that this isn't just a romantic relationship. It hurts all that much more because they're such good friends. There's a literal monument right outside of the town of a burned down farmhouse where AJ didn't just die. Big Mac died. Apple Bloom died. Granny Smith died. An entire family got wiped out, and she's blaming herself for that. You know, I think whether it was a guy or a girl, either way, a lot of that characterization is it's not gonna matter whether or not they're gay or whether or not, like, she's going to want to get away from that if she feels guilty about that incident because they had a fight right before it happened, whether or not it's true.
I think what Sunny was trying to say is that there are some established tropes in fiction that when you do switch the genders about, they become very stereotypical, and this plot, if it had been a heteronormative plot, would have come off as a stereotype as opposed to the way it is.
Exactly that. Like the very strong, empowered female character just going to complete emotional shit over a person she wasn't even with, that she just liked and was trying to move on from because she may have done something that incidentally lent to her or them dying in a tragedy. Yeah, yes, I can see that plot working. It's just it's a motif with Jack that I don't like, where a lot of it is so easily seen as stereotypical, and the only saving grace for it is that it's not heterosexual. So that's more just me looking at it from a lens of how would this read if it were put in a wider media sense, where it's not automatically subversive just by fact of it being two women.
I agree with you on that there are some risks in whenever we write ponyfic of any variety. We do skirt sometimes close to the wind when it comes to tropes and cliches. And like I'm saying this from the point of view of I've done it. I did not realize that I had apparently transcribed an entire scene from Rick and Morty in a fanfic until somebody pointed out. It's go nuts, by the way. But yeah, it didn't even occur to me until afterwards that writing an entire story about Doggy Spike saying, "Where are my testicles?" was actually like from Rick and Morty. So we all of us can fall prey to writing in tropes. Tropes are tropes for a reason. They are cliches because we as a species like patterns, so we just introduce them to our storytelling. But sometimes they slip through the cracks a little bit. It can be that if we end up writing a trope, it can countermand some of the characterization that should really contravene that. Like, I've never been into Game of Thrones, but I understand enough about it to know that one of the reasons it is considered such good storytelling is that it avoids the kind of tropes that usually happen in high fantasy, and instead says, no, if this is what a fictional figure did, this would be the actual consequence of that, not this storytelling heroic version of things that we've come to expect. But no, it would be bloody and brutal, and probably this character would die from that mistake.
Yeah, they kind of overdid it, though.
Yeah, very much so. But that's the way I understood the popularity to have come from, was this is a more realistic version of, we're not going to follow the tropes, we're going to follow the logic. And that's kind of where I thought this fic was going as well. It's like, we're following tropes in a way in some places rather than following the logistical way it would have gone, which you weren't here when I said it now at the start, but when we were talking about general impressions of the fic, one of the things I said was, if you try and judge this fic from a logistical standpoint, it falls apart because there are these problems with it. But if you look on it as an emotive experience, it resonates a bit better.
Gotcha. Good to go.
Right. Does anybody else want to talk about the characterization, or can we actually move on to that thing I announced like half an hour ago? I take it from that belly laugh from MP, we can move on. Impressions of the prose style. How does this story read? Is it trying to achieve any particular tone, and how well does this achieve this? Lost, you go first.
Oh, finally. I actually really like the tonality of this story, and it's maybe because it's my own, I'll admit, yeah, it is my own bias, because I know when Mag wrote this, she specifically said she was trying to lend or take bits from Silent Hill 2, the video game. The idea of with an individual trying to escape a past that they feel guilty about. And a lot of the prose in it is charged in that sense. There are certain parts where I was like, oh, there's a little clunky here. But I think it achieves tonality very well. The idea of someone being emotionally devastated and trying to cope. Yes.
Ilya, what do you think?
Well, I always worry when I'm reading a fic that's written recently, and this was a couple of years ago, that I'm suffering from not having watched all of the last season of My Little Pony, because I didn't. I watched about 5 episodes and just quit. And so I thought at first that I was missing out on something. You know, did Rarity move out of town some other place and start a boutique that I didn't know about? So I was a little bit lost there. I found myself sort of trying to catch up the whole time. The Fluttershy transition for me too was kind of odd. I thought there should have been like 3 little dots there or something to make you know that, hey, we're moving to a different aspect of the story. And also, as I said earlier, after I read the last of it, I understood a lot better. And when I read through it the second time, it read a lot better. So having said that, I think perhaps there might have been just a bit more foreshadowing about the condition of her, that she was feeling a little bad about something, or that some relationship had gone wrong, other than that little strange whispering through the walls bit, which didn't make much sense to me. So I think it was the prose style was good. Now how the story reads in the prose style, to me, that's 2 very different things. The whole time I was reading, I was thinking, well, this sounds like something Stephen King wrote, because it really did to me. I mean, it was the imagery,
Oh man.
everything about it was very Stephen King, except that by the middle of the story, you would have kind of understood a little bit more about what was going on in the Stephen King story. I didn't read 1408, so perhaps that's the exception that proves the rule. But I liked it. It was an enjoyable read, but a confusing one. It did have one thing in it that I really like. My favorite horse pun of all time is Vanity Mare. I think that's a fantastic horse pun. It would have read well
I
if I didn't.
personally like Neighrator Pony as a pun.
Well, yeah, but you would.
Favoritism.
So, yeah, I think the prose style was good. I think the story didn't read as well as it might have with a little bit more foreshadowing. The tone, yeah, it really did achieve the tone very well.
Sunny, what do you reckon?
So, the prose overall is good. I definitely liked the things that it did with chronological order. I thought that was neat. I definitely got the Silent Hill tones from that. That was almost one of the things that messed me up in interpreting Applejack. Is Silent Hill is very good about blending the real and the unreal. Like, some moments are meant to be literal, but some are meant to be, figments of the person's mind projecting onto reality around them. So I was stuck, having picked up on that tone, trying to figure out when the lines were blurring, when reality, there was no line. It was all supposed to be a figment of imagination beyond Fluttershy at the start. So the way that it harkened to other forms of media was almost to its detriment for me, because it messed with how I was trying to interpret the story. And maybe that was almost intentional. It seemed like maybe Mag was trying to sell it that way when I pointed it out. But for me, it being familiar with that media it was referencing made it more difficult for me to interpret it just as a story. With the writing, it was really good for the most part, besides the little chic incident with some of the the spellings or the word choices.
The little sheep incident.
Yeah, the little sheep at the bat. Some of that was bad. God damn it.
I don't believe you. Friendship over.
I love it.
So some of that, didn't hit for me. And then there were parts where I felt it was a little redundant, and the redundancy was taking away from the narrative. Like, let me scroll up in the actual fic itself and find it. It's like right in the first paragraph, Fluttershy is talking about her worries about Rarity, and the ending of the first paragraph is Rarity had been distancing herself from her friends, and though she claimed it was a product of expansion, Fluttershy feared it was something else, something more troubling. I think it would have been a lot stronger if the something more troubling had been taken off, and it was just Fluttershy feared it was something else, because that leaves like an open-ended question, a mystery, and it feels like connecting something more troubling to the end is answering that question with a vague answer that isn't as satisfying. So just little things like that, were sticking out to me. But beyond that, I think the prose is pretty good, and it did definitely achieve the overall tone. If anything, it got the tone it was going for. There's just nitpicks about characterization and some parts of the prose that didn't hit for me.
Niall, what do you reckon?
I mean, I edited it, so I'm biased, but I feel like overall there was good buildup. I think that was one of the things, especially with the way Lost used the pain and gore elements as she was going into it, and also we talked about Rarity's mindset, because if you pay attention as you're going through the fic, she becomes a little bit more frantic, a little bit more. She makes mistakes or she freaks out, where from start to finish, you see that progression, and it's meant to be that kind of downward spiral. The other thing I like, and to be clear, I don't know if we're just talking about the fic itself or the reading or both. Actually, can you clarify that, Scribbler? Are we just talking about the written fanfic, or are we all okay? Both. The other thing I liked, especially with the audio version that Lost did for her channel, was the use of music and tonality and the sharp breaks whenever things shift quickly. I felt like that was a good callback to the original 1408. There are parts in the movie where you feel very comfortable, and then you get this very swift tone shift of things are not right, and it kind of snaps on the audience and makes them go, oh, what's going on? Like, I thought we were fine and now we're not. There were at least 2 or 3 areas of the fic that do that. Like when Rarity has the picture drop, And I think there's another, like when she puts her hoof through one of the floorboards, it catches you very quickly, and I felt like all of those worked really well on the overall tone. And I feel like it's some of the best writing that Mags has done, especially for a fic like this, which I don't think she's really done many like this in the genre. So it was a lot of fun. I think it works well. There are some rough points, some things to learn for, but overall good. Oh, and actually one more thing, sorry.
Go on.
I love everybody's feedback. This has actually been the most enjoyable part of this, especially like on the audio version. Because if you listen to it the first time and then you listen to it again and then you listen to it the third time, you are always finding something new. And I love that in either things that I read or things that I listen to. And we've gotten a lot of feedback of that as well. And I feel like Ilya, if you listen to it again with another new context and new ears, you'd probably catch some more things, knowing some of the things you know now. And I love that in pieces that are layered, where depending on what time it is when you're listening to it, you get a new experience. That's only other comment I want to make.
Okay. Who hasn't spoken yet? Neighrator, I think it's you.
I admit, it could have just been me. I definitely listened to this fic when it came out, and then I listened to it earlier last week, and then I also listened to it again last night after watching 1408 the movie. I wanted to do my best to be prepared for this podcast.
Such dedication.
Yeah. I actually had so I don't know if it was just me, but I had a pretty hard time following the story in places. It sounds like I was not. Some other people had some trouble also, but I got all the way to the end of the fic the first time, and I said, so why was Fluttershy? What was her purpose in that story? Was she just there to, like, it sounds like most of it revolved around Applejack, so why did Fluttershy need to be there? And then the second time I listened to it just earlier in the night, as a matter of fact, I was like, oh, there's some foreshadowing there, and there's some things you can pick up on the second time. But yes, it was a little confusing for me. I don't know if that was just because I was like listening to it while I was in the car, and I don't know, maybe this is like when I'm getting off of a 12-hour shift, and maybe I was just distracted, and doing housework and other stuff. But I had trouble following the story in places. Other than that, I thought the tone was pretty nice. Just that kind of the building sense of foreboding was well done. I sort of wonder if I would have had a better time if I had been reading this one, reading the fic itself as opposed to listening to the audiobook. The audio adaptation was super well done, and you really get a much greater sort of emotional punch if you can literally hear the characters emoting and suffering in this case. But I wonder if I personally would have had an easier time sort of following along if I'd been reading the reading it on fanfiction as opposed to the audio adaptation.
Lost?
If I can add, the Fluttershy transition, like, because I know a lot of people brought that up when it goes from Fluttershy to then Rarity working in the boutique by herself. That is one of the weakest transitions in the whole thing, and I realize, like, in hindsight, like, I wish I had done something differently with the audio to make sure that the indication was there, because even I was listening to it this morning, and even I realized, I'm like, wait, hold on, now we're okay, fuck. And it caught me off guard too, because I was doing other things, and I realized that, yeah, if you read it, it comes across a lot better, I guess, but even then it's still kind of weak. Like, that, it's just that transition is a weak transition compared to a lot of the other parts of it.
See, for me, that transition was an advert that popped up. It's like, oh, change scenes, right? Okay.
You know.
I just found it funny because when the advert
and now for
ended,
something completely different.
I thought that maybe when I'd skip the advert, I would go like, oh shit, have I sent it forward too far?
That was my indication right there. It's like, that's the change.
Can I ask a question? Relatedly, so how closely How much adaptation did you do from the fic to the audio adaptation? Is it pretty much literal, word for word?
No, there are parts of it that are changed for the audio adaptation, and the scene specifically, if you were listening to the audio adaptation of when Applejack and Rarity are having the door smashed in and they're trying to get out, that whole section was reworked to remove all of the narration, and I made it more of an audio drama. The same scene happens in the text version, but it's obviously like, described and everything. I just removed all of it so that the action would seem more fluid for the audio.
Got it. Thank you. Scribbler has buggered off as she does and left me in charge. Was there any?
I just saw that. All right.
Anybody else have anything to add on impressions of the Prose style before we move on?
I had one thing.
Go ahead, Ilya.
It was just a question. Is everybody hearing that crap?
I heard that. I don't know what that was.
I'm
but
ring. I've kept the phone down, ring.
I'm telling you, haunted.
No, I'm just curious. I was curious since we have some knowledgeable people about the construction of the story here. Was there any special significance to Fluttershy having to sleep with Rarity?
Well, you want to take this off? Or?
No, because I'm just thinking because Mag had even said something that Sunny had said that it was like, oh yeah, there's some undertones there. That's why I was laughing. No, go ahead and take it, Niall.
Yeah, no, I remember we did talk about this and laughed about it quite a bit, but the idea was it's been shown in the show multiple times that they are some of the closest pre-main six coming together friends. They know each other. They've had interactions. So the idea is it's just like best girlfriends. Hey, there's not another place. Neither one of us needs to sleep on the bed. We can just sleep together in the bed.
What did that mean? The text message that just popped up.
Oh, I just said how
dare Scribbler answer the phone, in other words.
Yeah, how dare she how dare she answer that phone?
Oh, I'm seeing the things are over there at side now. Okay, duh. I didn't realize it was telling me things that were written in text.
Wait, do you have the text to speech on, like where it talks to you?
Yeah.
Oh,
oh my God, turn that off. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's been weird the whole time.
I was like, what?
I can turn that off.
Where's that setting? Yeah.
I don't know.
It's under configure, Ilya, because I had it on too, and every time you guys type something, it's just like, oh, there's another side conversation going on.
But all those side conversations.
I was hearing I would hear like I thought I was hearing like radio chatter through, but it was coming from, I don't have it turned on, but I was hearing it through other people's microphones. And I was like, what? Who's got a police scanner on? Got it.
Like,
okay.
Oh God.
And then this sort of ties into the movie in 1408 where he's like, this is 5. We have killed all your friends. I was like, what's going on? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, turn off text to speech, Ilya. It's under the configure menu and just untick that.
I'll try to find it. Is it just that check mark that says text to speech?
Yeah,
it's just
turn that off. Nobody needs that.
Please tell me it's been reading out the little update messages for you too. So it's like, Niall is now muted. Niall is now unmuted. Niall is now muted.
Sonny, turn that off.
Yep.
Everybody turned that off.
Oh my God, it was reading all of those too?
I turned it off. Yes,
it was reading them all. I was wondering what the hell you were on about in the Discord. I was like, what? Why is that? Why would that be a problem?
No.
Turn it off.
I have it on. Yep. I was just making fun of Niall for suffering so much, but the fact it was read out loud to Ilya was the best part. Holy shit.
I thought it was making the decisions as well. It said, NP is now in charge. I don't like the way Scribbler's acting.
Oh, Skynet is in charge. We're in trouble.
We'll make you moderator.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, fuck.
It ties into the fix.
Apparently, Niall has been bad boy because you've been muted so many times. Niall's now muted.
It's okay. It's like when Scribbler threw me in the AFK chat. I was like, what the fuck?
I've done that to yourself.
We are all so bad at moderating that Mumble is trying to moderate us. It's gross.
It's trying to moderate us now. You guys are shit. Fix it. Fuck it. I'm gonna fix it.
Okay, I could hear you screaming from my headphones on the other side of the room. What is going on?
You're welcome.
I can't even. So we discovered that Ilya had text-to-speech turned on in Mumble so that it was reading out every time Niall is muted, Niall is unmuted, a little computerized voice was coming on in his headphones.
And then I had it on too.
And then the rest of us were like hearing sort of the side. We were hearing that through their own microphones and wondering who had a police scanner and where the little robot voice is coming from.
Oh, God.
And of course that ties into, I don't know who else watched 1408 the movie, but that was part of the thing. You would pick up the phone and it would say, "This is 5. We have killed all your friends." And there was this like creepy voice on the phone, and that was happening to us.
It was becoming meta.
Well,
it's not the first time that's happened. It's Writing Words.
So, Scribbler, your impressions in prose style. How does it? Because we could be on this all the rest of the cast.
My impressions of the prose style. I don't know if this is a reflection on Stephen King, because I have not read a lot of Stephen King. I've listened to some audiobooks of Stephen King. I have watched a disturbing number of movies of Stephen King. I've not read a lot of Stephen King. So what Ilya was saying about he thought it sounded like Stephen King's prose, the first thing that popped into my head was, oh, does that mean that Stephen King's prose is very utilitarian as well? Because having listened and read other things that Mag has written, this one stood out to me as it was very utilitarian is the best word I can think to describe it. It was very much each part of the prose served a purpose to move the plot forward, but there was no flowery side avenues. There was no, like, I think I had this conversation with Mag that she gave me one of this year's Halloween readings for You Lost to beta, and I think I wrote like multiple times all over it, where are the similes? Where are all this? Where's the metaphor? Where's the figurative language? Because there just wasn't any. And I think because I did that, I noticed it here as well, that Mag does not like using lots of figurative language. Her prose style is very much, it moves the plot along. And it characterizes them the characters very well. And she makes brilliant use of adverbs and adjectives. But beyond that, she plays it very safe with her prose style. I'd love to see her experiment a bit more with that. And that's just pure personal preference, because I fucking love similes. I know I overuse them completely, and the complete opposite advice should be given to me. Like, dial it back, Scribbler, you idiot. When's the plot going to get going? Stop describing things. So I would just love to see Mag explore that aspect of description a bit more.
Can you make up your mind, Scribbler? Sometimes you say you like cerulean orbs, sometimes you say you don't like cerulean orbs. Which is it?
Oh, well.
How do you
This
feel
is an
about
ongoing
orifices?
joke that I hate the fact that some fics use the word orbs to describe eyes, because if the eyes are orb-like, they're not in the skull.
Well, I'm one of those guilty people, so I'm not sure.
I know. I say that. I realised halfway through that rant, you did it in the Chronicle of Curse Word. I do not take it back. You literally called Mag's eyes lilac orbs.
I'm like, well, okay. Well, shit.
Yes, but that is my actual genuine pet peeve in all fiction. But professional authors do it too. So, like, I'm very much alone on my island.
If I could add to your thought, that is actually one of Mag's weaknesses. I obviously, Niall and I both help her with editing wise with a lot of her stories, and that is something that I've talked to her about, because like, she's very good. And I think it might also be because of her background, because of PTS and the audio drama writing style that she's so used to, which is just, this is what's going on, this is the plot, boom, and the acting and the art will carry it. When having to go to prose, I've told her that there are a lot of things that are lacking in the sense of, like, you know, metaphors and similes, and to really amp up the prose in that sense. And that's something she is aware of. I'd like to think that this piece is her trying to finally go into that, and I know she's gotten a little bit better as the stories have been coming along, but that's something I know she's aware of.
See, it's weird that you say that this is the better one that's come along. I think Apple Sleep Experiment did it brilliantly. Sleep Experiment that was, for her prose style was a lot better.
That was also me helping her rewrite some good chunks of it. So, yeah.
So that would be like, because Chronicle of Curse Word, just gonna little segue off here since we brought up the lilac orb.
Why not?
Chronicle of Curse Word is really flowery. Like it uses figurative devices out the wazoo, and I love that. Like that's my jam, and that's purely personal preference because I don't want Mac to get offended by me saying that. It's just because I fucking love that kind of thing. And I'm always impressed when an author can take the flowery figurative language and the plot going along at a good pace and blend them together. Because it's something I really struggle with. And I don't always get it right. As the people going, will something just bloody happen in Vampirelance? Will attest. All those scenes that took chapters upon chapters to happen because of all the flashbacks.
but the flashbacks though,
yeah, in retrospect, even I think, yeah, like, you know what, like I shouldn't have made that scene be drawn out quite as long as it was, but yeah. Ilya?
I was just going to say that on that note, Stephen King once said that when he writes a story, he doesn't outline it. He just sits down at the typewriter and starts typing and just types the whole story.
That is what Mag did for this story. That is exactly what she did.
So that might preclude certain allusions and similes and things like that.
So is this actually a GRIMDARK?
Lofty, same brain.
Actually,
Thank you.
Same brain.
GRIMDARK. All right, fucking let me get out then. Is this actually a GRIMDARK? Lost.
Oh, all right. Now I feel personally attacked.
If you were personally attacked, you'd know it.
Whoa.
Oh, god damn it. Okay. Yes, I do consider this a GRIMDARK. Because we've had, you and I, Scribbler, have had this discussion of what constitutes a GRIMDARK or not.
I know it's the only podcast on your channel.
We don't talk about Ramble Rant.
When does Ramble Rants come back?
When hell freezes over.
Did you see Texas? Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're there, buddy.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Oh god, yeah, but I would consider this a GRIMDARK, because of the tragic aspect of it. I'd say it's light on the gore, because there really isn't any, other than Rarity's hoof getting screwed over by the planks, and then she burns to death.
She also stabbed her eyes out with shears or whatever.
Oh yeah, she did, and then everybody, yeah, there we go. There's your gore. Boom. So yeah, I would consider this a GRIMDARK.
See,
I just want to say that as someone who listens to the
hang on. GRIMDARK is defined as a kind of fiction by which the worst possible ending is the actual ending. Anything less than that is just dark fic. So I am going to argue with you because the amount of gore doesn't make it a GRIMDARK, because the ending's actually quite hopeful. That's my standpoint.
Wait.
NP, now
wait,
you get
the ending's hopeful to you? Wait, hold on.
Not to me.
The ending, okay, this is something that I've made a point on later on. Point 10, the thoughts on the different endings. Rarity's ending is not hopeful. Sweetie Belle's is.
Agreed.
Okay.
So the fact that it ends if it had ended in the fire, yes, I'd agree it's a GRIMDARK. But because it doesn't, because it ends with Sweetie Belle learning from Rarity's mistakes and going on to start her life with Scootaloo, I would say it's a more hopeful ending. That she is going to be shaped by that tragedy, but she's not going to let it affect her the way that Rarity did. So I would say that's hopeful.
Damn it.
I mean, she is dating the chicken, so do we call that hopeful?
We call that bestiality. But they're in a world of magical horses. So is it bestiality when a horse mates with a chicken, or is it just like a pile of mush with some feathers that used to be a chicken?
God damn it! God damn it!
That devolved so quickly.
Did you expect any better from me? Really?
No.
I expected slightly better than chicken fucking from both of you, honestly. I actually did.
Like that's South Park.
Well, you might have expected better, but mine was chicken fucking until it exploded, so,
I agree with you now.
So, go on.
I agree with you
agree
then.
with me now.
Because, I was thinking in the sense of just Rarity, but yeah, you're right. If it's now that we're looking at the Sweetie Belle endings attached to it, damn it. All right, yeah, okay. I can go with that. I can go with that.
Neighrator, what do you reckon?
I literally don't remember anymore because you started talking about chicken fucking. And I guess I lost my train of thought.
No, he's just thinking about chickens exploding on the end of a giant horse cock. There we go.
Jesus
Wow.
Christ.
No, I'm not thinking about him. Look, okay, right, I'm going to the plague pit tomorrow and I might actually die, so just let me have this.
Please don't.
Speaking of
rather not.
Grimdark, Jesus. So, yeah, I have no idea what the fuck the point I was going to make. I
So
don't
do you
know.
think it's a grimdark narrator? Let's try to get it back on the rails.
I'll be honest. This is my very first time hearing that definition that a grimdark has to be the very worst possible ending. And as a narrator, and as someone who considers himself somewhat of a connoisseur of fan fictions, I'm sort of embarrassed that I did not know that. So by that definition, I guess no, because it does end on a slightly hopeful note. I guess the grimmest possible ending would be the house, reeling in Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle, and they will also die. Technically.
Ooh, that would have been good.
Right?
See, I thought that's what was going to happen. That I was legit quite confused that the house let the letter get out. After all the times they'd have fought Rarity getting the letter out, I thought that anyone...
It was dying. It was losing its power. It is screaming. It is on fire. The ability for it to conjure AJ is not there. Like, the house is dying, and she's literally sitting in the middle of fire.
See, that's the thing that made me think, I'm not sure about this. The fact that the house is on fire, at this point, it has manipulated itself so much to prevent this kind of thing from happening that I wondered why it allowed itself to suddenly be on fire. It can change the entire room. It can change the paper. It can take away objects that Rarity's got. Why did it let her spread the alcohol and set it on fire?
Yeah.
Well,
There's
I
an
guess
easy
the
answer to all of those questions,
What was that?
Please,
especially the letter. The last letter is the one she wrote where she understood what was going on. So it was allowed. I think the same thing is true with the fire. She didn't know what was going on when she finally reached the denouement in her head of the entire situation. Then everything could conclude. That's the way I looked at it.
See, that's what I
So
thought it
reckons-
might be the thing when when Applejack's getting drawn away. I thought that was she's accepting reality, so she's not allowed to have the fantasy anymore. But if that was the case, that should have been clearer. Sorry, but it should have. MP, carry on.
Forgot my point again.
Sorry. At least this time there was no exploding chickens.
It's okay. If I'll pipe up if it comes back to me. Carry on.
Sunny, do you think it's a grimdark?
No, but not necessarily your definition. I think grimdark as a genre is a little more loosely
Go on.
defined. Like, it doesn't have to be the absolute worst possible ending. It just has to be exceedingly grim. Typically defined as very dystopian or generally hopeless, but there can be moments of hope. But I don't think this is a grimdark because it makes it clear that Rarity won. The hero triumphs in the end. And, you could argue if she's a hero, but the protagonist or whatever, she wins. She beats the unbeatable thing. So I think that is definitional to a monster grimdark for me, is if you're going to have a monster or a spiritual entity in your grimdark, it needs to be unbeatable, or if it's beaten, it needs to be left in the air if it's actually been defeated. The fact that she defeats it, even beyond, Sweetie and Scootaloo's happy ending, the fact that Rarity defeats the house makes it not a grimdark for me. And I do find it funny that the reason that her letter got through is because the house was dying, because that tells me if she had just thought to run out the front door at that point,
Yep.
Ooh.
She sat in the middle of a burning house as the door burns down outside is all on view.
learned helplessness.
She felt that was what she needed to do to make it right.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it's a funny shit post because that is a fucking hysterical thought when you think about it. But I agree with Ilya in the sense that it's like.
So I'm just imagining ghostly Applejack going, the door is fucking there. Standing there, Rarity is with all great dignity sipping wine on the couch while behind her the door is completely open.
That's so fucked up.
Hey, Rarity, I hate to interrupt your introspective brooding while you burn to death, but I can't help but notice that the door is wide open. Y'all could just run out of here if you were so inclined.
Didn't you just decide not to kill yourself?
It's such a bad shit post.
Yes! You just, so apparently, okay, so it's stabbing your eyes out, horrible but quick, but you'd rather burn to death. Okay then.
But I agree with Hillian though, that it was more of the idea that she had come to terms with the whole truths, and that's how it was. And plus the text is ambiguous. Like I always assumed, at least for myself, because, you know, obviously doing the audio production and everything, that the door was locked, but the under of it was open? I don't fucking know. That's something maybe I'll ask Mag when I fucking get the chance to talk to her, because, like, I'm just assuming that the door was always locked by that point.
Either that or you now have a wonderful April Fool's fic of the end of La Pomme Boutique, where Rarity's like, oh shit, the door's open! Ah!
I now have the shit post for it.
I can't... You know that picture of Will Smith where he's standing on the red carpet, like, gesturing to someone else, like, look at this! I'm just imagining Applejack out the door.
Is it bad that I want art of this now? I want some art of this.
It's too funny.
Anyways, yeah, so I wanted to add that.
Ilya, what do you think? Is it a grimdark?
Yes, it's a grimdark because life is a grimdark.
Oof.
Also,
Jesus, okay.
when Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo were walking off together, Sweetie Belle had a bloody knife concealed in her mane. So that was what was going on.
Fuck yes. Oh my god, please, yes.
But
okay, now Applejack is gesturing to the open door. Rarity runs out of it, but Scootaloo stabs her like, no, you have to die so she knows she loves me.
God damn it.
It did end on a rather positive note, I guess, so maybe not.
Scootaloo hired the house. The house is actually a ghost hitman who was to do a job on Rarity so that her girlfriend, she could admit her feelings to her girlfriend, would admit her feelings to her.
This is devolving so quickly. Like, God,
we're
damn
pricing your Halloween special for next year.
Right.
This year,
pretty much. Did everybody say if it was a grimdark? I don't think. Niall, did you?
I agree with Sonny. I think it's too uplifting to necessarily be considered a grimdark. It's definitely dark fic, but the fact that she wins, I think, is the one thing that pushes it over. Even if you cut out the Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo part, she's accepted her fate. She knows that she's stopping it from happening to anybody else, and she beat the monster. I think if you completely cut out the Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo part at the end, it's still a story of this tragic triumph, which with grimdarks, I usually think of it as like, oh god, the monster's still there, or like she said, it could still be there. The cycle can continue. But with this, the cycle's broken. And if the cycle's broken, it's not necessarily as bad as it could have been.
Okay then. So moving on to the next point. Does knowing the source material, the film adaptation of 1408 by Stephen King, affect the reader's enjoyment of this story? Okay, somebody's changed my wording on the next one, which is conversely, does not knowing it affect your enjoyment? But somebody's changed it to compare and contrast with 1408, the movie / the short story. Who was that? Who changed me?
I did not change it. I added another point below that. Excuse you.
Above it, you mean?
They're fighting in the Google Doc for context.
Then
Just
we'll be
so
the
the
top few.
listeners know. They're fighting in the Google Doc.
Yes. To say, yeah, they're fighting. This is quite hilarious watching the shenanigans ensue on the Google Doc.
Yeah. Now leave it alone.
Just the little pink and orange cursors bouncing around each other, rapid fire changing things.
Remember when you're like, I'm the only one that he points in this Google Doc. I need somebody else to put stuff in there, and then somebody does.
Yeah, but it has to make sense where you put them. Besides which, can I point out, conversely, does being ignorant make it better or worse reading experience is your fucking point!
There's a lot of re there. Just so much palpable re.
All the re, and I think
Hang
it's
on.
spiced with a little butt hurt.
We don't read. I'm
This
British.
is a
we
reading
tea.
podcast.
Sorry, MP. Right, okay. MP, since you did
You're
go out
not
of your way, I am actually. I don't mean to humiliate you in podcasts. Sorry, it just kind of happens. Love you.
All right, too.
Does knowing the source material affect your enjoyment of the story? MP, you went out of your way to watch the film last night. So you get to answer this first. Do you reckon that knowing the story of the film, does it accentuate your enjoyment of La Pomme Boutique, or does it take away from it?
What Mag said in the author's note was that it was inspired by the fic, so it's not fair to call it an adaptation or anything else. I would even go so far as to say it was only inspired by it in the very loosest sense. If you were someone who had seen the movie and then heard the fic, you probably wouldn't necessarily know that they were necessarily that one was related to the other. So I would say no.
Lost, why do you keep leaving the channel?
I don't know.
You just keep popping up of Losty entered the channel, Losty moved to the
She's
mumble,
the ghost.
Losty entered the channel.
Does it?
It's Mumble doing that, I'm telling you.
Well,
I'm not doing it.
You
on
voiced
purpose.
Applejack in the adaptation. It's you.
It's an
apparently,
it.
yeah.
Ah! I don't know what happened. Like, all of a sudden, everyone just went quiet. And I was like, oh, fuck. Did it cut? Did my internet cut? And then I left, and I came back, and then it says you moved me to AFK. And I'm like, all right. All right again. All right.
That Phil, when you moved yourself to AFK the whole time.
I didn't move myself.
I can't up in you. Can't
No,
be
that's what it says. Hang on. I will screen cap it. God
You
damn
can
it.
screen cap it all you want. I am staying away from from anywhere near the Mumble server in case I accidentally press stop on the recording, which I've done before. So I don't even have that open on screen in front of me right now.
You are the admin. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
I may be the admin, but I didn't move you.
It
So
is
unless
the
it's a
ghost of
glitch.
Applejack compelling this fucking podcast.
Admin Jack. Or Anger Jack.
Hey! Oh boy, I got some drafting to do. That's great.
All right, okay. So MP, you were saying?
I have no idea anymore. I'm too wrapped
I'm
up
so
in
sorry that I interrupted you.
sysadmin Applejack. My brain is in full thick production mode now.
Is it better or worse than how Luna got her groove back?
Oh God. Okay, so I've answered the question. Did knowing the source material affect the reader's enjoyment of the story? It's someone else's turn.
Has anybody else watched the film version? Lost, I know you have, but I'll come to you last on this one. Has anybody else watched the film version?
Yeah, I've watched it.
So do you reckon that you can enjoy this fic without knowing anything about the film? Or do you reckon it adds to something, or it doesn't add to anything at all? What do you reckon?
So there's enough overlap that you can. I don't think when reading it, especially for me, it'd been a while. I saw it soon after it came out, so it'd been a little bit since it came out before we worked on the fic. I think you'll see certain threads, but to Neighrator's point, I don't think it spoils it because it's not a direct adaptation. There are definitely things that are done differently. If anything, I think it might help a reader follow along if they start to see that. Because if you're in the mindset of I've read something or I've seen something like this, you can connect those threads a little bit easier. Also, like 1408 isn't the only one that's done this. There's been a lot of these types of stories and movies where you jump around and you don't fully know what the protagonist is thinking or what the backstory is till you get towards the end. But yeah, I don't think it takes away, and I don't think it necessarily ruins the experience. But I do think it would help seeing it beforehand, maybe connect some of the dots that might have been harder if you didn't.
Ilya, what do you reckon?
Well, I didn't see or read it, but I would appreciate someone telling me what 1408 was about so I can understand how to connect it.
Lost, do you want to take this one?
Yes. 1408 is basically about an author who is struggling to find inspiration. He believes that there aren't any ghosts, and he has become prolific in the world of writing reviews of haunted places. I'm actually,
isn't he?
Yes, he's a debunker. I'm also cliff notesing the film, not the story.
Short story.
The short story, yeah. So he gets a letter about, or a postcard or something, a card of like, oh, come to this place, the 1408 room that's in this hotel in, I believe it's in New York, or it's specified it's on the East Coast because he's on the West Coast. So he goes, and the manager of the hotel, who is actually Samuel L. Jackson, he basically is like, you don't want to stay here, some fucked up shit has happened in this room. I'll just give you the files of the actual events that happened, but don't stay in this room. I'm not like fucking around. And the main character is like, no, fuck you. You're really hyping this up. You're really playing into the part. Let me stay in the damn room. So they take him to the room. The manager won't even enter the room. And he specifies that like none of the help even goes into the room. And if they do, they go in pairs. And there's a lot of like rich history that you get about the room. But once he gets into the room, that's when things start to devolve. Things start fucking with him. He thinks that, there's a great turn down service because suddenly there's a mint on his pillow when he turns around and things like that. But as the movie progresses, the room shifts. It starts to fuck with him, where he starts seeing flashbacks of certain events of him dealing with his own personal issues, and you find out eventually throughout the story that his daughter died of an illness. I don't think it's ever specified what illness it is. And the room fucks with him to a point where he thinks he sees his daughter. And pretty much it comes to the same terms of like in the comparison to, if we're comparing La Palme to 1408, where the main character decides that if he can't escape this room, he's going to destroy it. And he takes the liqueur and basically makes a Molotov cocktail and starts a fire in the room. And depending on which version you watch of the movie, there's a director's cut and there's the theatrical release. The director's cut is similar to La Palme, where he dies, and that's pretty much it. The theatrical cut, which was made because the director's cut tested poorly with audiences, the theatrical cut is that he lives, but it ends with him having a recording of his daughter, because nobody was really believing him. Like everyone was like, oh, the room just exploded and there was something really off. But he has like definitive proof that the room was fucked up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Whoa.
Very well done.
Well, we can kind of club these 3 points together. Does knowing the source material affect the reader's enjoyment? Does being ignorant make it better or worse? And compare and contrast with the 1408 movie and short story. Now, MP, I think you added compare and contrast, didn't you?
Yes, that was me. Had to think about it.
So, what is your point on that? What did you want people to discuss on that one?
There were a few things I've noticed, and I wish I had put in specifically what they were while I remembered them. But specifically, Red Herring, who I gather is the protagonist in the 1408, sort of an analog of the protagonist in the 1408 movie, the cigarette, which is kind of central to his, which is used as sort of a plot device. I believe Red Herring also, there was some similarity there with the way that Red Herring used his cigarette. And I was just curious if there were any others that people had noticed.
That's funny because that was actually just added because I brought it up. that was not a reference over at all, because they were like, oh, he's an old detective, and I'm like, he needs to do something more than just stand up and kill himself. Give him a cigar. Cigars are a thing. But I think the window scene was one of them, because there is a point where he tries to in the movie get out of the window and get across to the next room, and the further he looks over and the window is gone. And he realizes that the only way he can go is back to the room he came from, because there is nowhere to go. Like
the building just kind of impossibly stretches out into infinity. Yes, there was that one too.
Yeah, so there was that one. You could argue the whole lighting the room on fire at the end. That had similarities. I think there were a couple other lost.
I was gonna say I would say the history of the room, because everyone pretty much kills themselves, and we get the history of the hotel room or like the compare and contrast between La Pomme and that is that there are file folders, and I remember in the movie Samuel L. Jackson's character gives a file folders to the main character, and he sits there and goes through them, and yeah, there are like detailed photos of how each one died and everything like that. So that was another nod. The liqueur. That in the original Samuel L. Jackson's character gives him a bottle of liqueur, and Rarity does something similar with the wine bottle. Though I remember getting a comment somewhere saying like that's unrealistic because wine wouldn't be flammable like that.
That
and I'm
was
just
my
like,
major plot hole is that couldn't happen with wine. The reason it was a harder liquor is because wine isn't flammable.
No, I know.
Pony Merlot is way stronger.
Okay, hang on. We're all talking over. Sunny, do you want to say that one a bit louder?
Yeah, the major plot hole I was going to point out, and I was so excited to get to this, is because the ending cannot work. It could not happen because wine is not flammable the way that a hard liquor is. So in the original 1408, he uses a hard liquor to burn down the room he's in. Rarity uses a wine whose flashpoint could not have burned at room temperature the way she used it.
But magic.
But she specifically went over the realism, girl. Come on.
No, I'm kidding. I know. No,
Is it magic wine?
Oh, I know. No, because I laugh at that too, because I was like, I saw that comment. I was like, wait, is that real?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, fuck. And even Mag was like, oh, well, shit. Like, we were both kind of like, well, fuck.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I missed. I thought you guys were going with liqueur, because there's a point where she says, I think she references that, and I'm like, oh, it's liquor, it's fine. And then after seeing it done, I was like, oh, you chose wine can't burn. But
yeah, I know.
It's too late.
It's too late.
It's out there.
I thought it was literally a deliberate choice. And I was like, that was a weird. I guess ponies don't have hard liquors because it's Happy Pony World.
See, I'm teetotal, so I did not get that plot hole at all. I was just amazed that Rarity, very posh Rarity, was drinking boxed wine.
Well, no, it wasn't. It came
she
out
does.
of...
Yeah, she said it came out of a box, which made me think, box wine? Rarity? Really?
No, it's in wines there are like wooden boxes that they can lay in, like the bottles.
See that did not come through. I literally thought that she had a carton of wine out of this.
I want that now. I want box wine Rarity. God
Just
damn it.
spinning in a circle with box wine and it's flying all over the room.
And then it doesn't set on fire.
Oh my god!
We're trying to make a Molotov cocktail out of a box.
That's the takeaway from this podcast.
Is the dual thing of Rarity burning in a building while the door is open behind her, and Rarity not able to burn the building.
This is the first reference. This is the first reference I recall of a date being in My Little Pony, and it was a date that's sort of current, 1949.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent vintage.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, they're not using a celestial calendar or anything. Whoops.
No, it was a legitimate date.
So, 70 years ago, it would have been like whatever ponies use for calendar, like the year of the sun, 977 or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was a fandom creation, but I've always liked the idea that we hit year 0 when Luna disappeared, and then when Luna reappeared, it was like after Luna. So everything's like year 999. PL was in pre-Luna, and year 1 after Luna.
See, this is the first time I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I consume a stupid amount of Ponyfic, so and really early Ponyfic as well, which I keep throwing at you, going, "You should adapt this. You should adapt this."
You know, we're working on it.
Yes, I know the tip reading.
Also, I'd like to ask another question: are there any other references?
I'll tell you later, Neighrator.
Okay. Are there any other references in Pony to the use of tobacco? I don't recall ever seeing that before.
Not in the show. I can't recall any in the show. I know I've seen crap loads of fanfics incorporating like cigarettes and cigars and stuff like that, but not show-wise.
The only thing in the show that was similar was Pinky had a pipe, but it was always blowing bubbles. So that is there. And I think in one of the Manhattan episodes, there was a pony, like one of the gruffer ones, that it had something like tucked behind his ear on his hat that might have been construed as a cigarette carton. But I think that's it. Like, they've been very good about not putting that in as a reference. Kid showed.
Yeah, the show is always really vague and quite good about getting across like shorthand for real world things without going the full hog of yep. Does anybody else have anything to add about 1408? I can't add much because I watched the Foundflix ending explained and then immediately forgot all of it.
So I was in the same boat as Niall, where I had seen it a long time ago, like when it was first coming out, and then I haven't really seen it since. I will say, even only having seen it once, like a decade ago, knowing 1408 and how it ended and what the general premise was did ruin the fic for me a bit, because I was in no semblance of mystery of what was going to happen. As soon as I picked up what plot beats were going on and what was similar, I instantly knew, okay, the house is the monster and the ending is going to be her trying to defeat it somehow, and it's either going to go with one of the re-release endings where she makes it, or, you know, given that it's a grimdark, it's probably going to go with the original one where she dies. And, you know, when she started dumping the fire around, it wasn't a shock to me at all that she set it on fire. So nothing in this mystery was really a mystery for me beyond how much of it was real, because it's pretty beat for beat what the original plot was. You know, the details are different, but the plot's about the same.
Follow-up question. Did you read the author's note and then knowing that it was based on 1408 ruined it for you? Or did you go into that not knowing that it was based on 1408 and then you immediately recognized oh, this is that one based on that one movie?
No, I had totally leaped up without reading the author's note that it was based on 1408.
What? That is astounding to me.
Oh, the comments are filled with that actually on the reading. On YouTube, there are lots of comments of, oh, this reminds me of 1408. Like without even, because only on the fanfic post does it say that it's based off 1408. I don't believe I put it anywhere in the description that 1408 is the inspiration for this story.
Huh. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's definitely something a lot of people pick up on, and especially if you read a lot of these, yeah, I feel like if you have a good mind for it, it's something you can easily pick up. But the points are a little bit different, but yeah, the plot's there.
Plus, I'd like to think like Mag's certain stories that she's written, you can tell that there's influence from somewhere. Like, what is it? Apple Sleep Experiment is based off Russian Sleep Experiment. The Friendship Test is based off The Circle and Would You Rather. There's lots of different types of inspirations for a lot of her big grimdarks that she's done over the years. So it's sort of like if you know, oh, Magpie wrote this, it's sort of like, oh, you'll know that there's some inspiration somewhere.
I will say that the inspired by 1408 is in the fic description as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't remember. I know it's somewhere.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was in the middle of it was in the middle of last week, and I just happened to click through to the fic, and I said, oh, it's author's note based on 1408. I was like, oh, what the fuck is that? Because I hadn't seen it in the theaters or heard of it, and so I promptly went and listened to the audio book reading of the which I found on YouTube. And then I said, yeah. And then Losty, you piped up with, actually, it's based on the movie, not the book, which are quite different. I was like, oh, guess I'll watch that too.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how is the short story different than the film?
It is a short story, which is ironic because the movie and the audiobook reading that I listened to are almost the same. About half of the short story is Mr. Enslin in the hotel manager's office, just discussing about all the weird shit that's going on in the rooms. And then once he actually gets in the room, the action moves pretty fast. I would say, yeah, it's maybe 20 minutes or so of him slowly going and saying, I think it's less than that. It's about 11 minutes of from start to finish of the time that he's actually in the room. He goes crazy pretty quickly. The whole plot line, like, of why he's there and like his relationship with his daughter and his wife, all of that is only in the movie. We know very little about Mr. Enslin in the book. He all we know is that he's like a writer. He reviews like spooky places, and that's it. So Mr. Enslin's entire backstory in the movie is only in the movie.
Was there a reason why she decided to go with the movie rather than the short story, Lost?
Because she had only seen the movie. I can tell you that right now.
I love how you don't even try to defend your wife there.
Well,
you could have bullshitted your way through that.
Well, it's okay. I love Mag, but her, like, she is a big reader, but she originally had experienced this first as the movie. And then I remember when we first started dating, she showed me this movie and I was like, holy shit, this is really good. Like, I loved it because, you know, I'm very big onto psychological horror and things like that. And then, like I said, I was having a bit of a moment and she was just like, oh, let me write a story. Let me take two favorite things. Let me take 1408 and Applejack and let me smash them together. And that's pretty much how this happened.
The movie and Stephen King's book are actually quite different, I think.
That's interesting. I'll have to find the short story and listen to it now. Can you send me the link to that? I was going to ask, can you send me a link so I don't have to find it? It should be in your watch history.
I don't know how computers work. I'm bad with computers.
What?
That is a lie.
That
you
is
are a lie.
absolute bullcrap. Sir, I call boo hockey. Right, I think that's pretty much exhausted all three of those points. Now, we're on to imagery and foreshadowing. Now, whose point was that?
Mine, I think.
Do you want to go into what you mean by that?
I put the audiobook reading in the channel, and I can only do one thing at once, so give me a second.
That is a mood.
No multitasking for you. To be fair, though, you're on the end of, like, you've been awake for hours.
So I do think the imagery and foreshadowing...
Hang on, was that your house making a noise in the background there?
That was my refrigerator turning
That
off.
sounded like those creaking noises out of the reading.
I thought it was someone knocking on your door. I was like, dude.
It's my little college dorm room fridge that I keep in my office that I used to keep sodas and stuff cold in, and it's very annoying when I'm recording.
I just love the fact that it literally, from my perspective, sounded like the creaking house. Like suddenly, the MP has been haunted by 1408.
Then there was the time you accidentally locked your pet dog in the fridge and killed it. Now it's coming back to haunt you.
They call that fridge horror.
Boom, boom.
What was the question?
I was like, did we derail Neighrator again? Did we derailed him again? Okay.
Imagery and foreshadowing. The end is in sight, MP. We're on point 9. There's 13 of them.
Yeah. Imagery and foreshadowing. Was there any? What did you notice? I thought it was good. The early on, you know, and this is not something I noticed until the second read through, but I thought everything that happened with Fluttershy. Fluttershy was in the house and the room was cold, and there was like firewood in the house. But Rarity was like, no, it's fine. You can snuggle up to me, and here's a blanket. We don't need to start any fires. And Fluttershy was like, didn't want to push that point. So the first time through, I was like, what is going on? Why is Fluttershy here anyway? Now I understand. Applejack had Rarity had like PTSD on account of the fire that killed all the entire Apple family.
I missed that on the first. All three of my read-throughs, I didn't get the fire thing. I thought it was just Rarity not wanting to admit she didn't want to be alone.
Might have been construed either way, and if so, that was a master stroke by Magpie.
Actually, it's a Rarity fic.
Yes.
No.
But to be fair, she got further with Fluttershy than she did with Applejack.
She did. She really did.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
She actually got Fluttershy into bed with her.
Rarity writes.
Hang on, aren't you on the Rarity train back there?
Some ships are valid, even if they're not mine. Applejack doesn't own one.
Imagery and foreshadowing. Anybody else catch any bits of imagery or foreshadowing?
The barrel of rotting apples.
See, I thought that was quite heavy-handed. Like, I don't think the fic needed that.
It was not subtle at all. The fact that the barrel literally had Applejack's cutie mark on it, I was like, oh, subtle.
See, I think that the fic would have benefited from not having that thing, because it was strong enough up to that point without belaboring the point. Is that what you meant, Lost, when you said that it drags in the middle?
Yes, that's what I meant. There were certain scenes that, like I said, in this as I was listening to it, there were certain parts I'm like, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that. And don't get me wrong, like, the barrel scene was actually one of them. I like the imagery, but as I was listening back to it, I was like, yeah, we really were heavy-handed with that. Like a duh.
Or the fact that sort of the source of Rarity's guilt sort of stems from the fact that she sort of tainted a bunch of barrels of cider with rotten apples. So I thought if it was a double meaning there, then that would be quite clever.
See, that's what I assumed. that's what I assumed that Mag was doing, was that it was a double meaning of, oh, they're dead, and oh, she fucked up, and now all the apples are fucked or the cider's fucked because she's an idiot. But but it, like now, like I said, looking back on it, I realized, oh, that could have been done a different way. It could have been done a different way. And like I said, like I've also said too, it's not bad. The description and the way that it's conveyed, and humble brag, I was proud of the sound mixing for that, because trying to mix the sound of maggots going through rotten apples was not a fun time. But it could have been done differently.
That was part of a larger issue I had. And I guess this sort of harkens back to Prose, but dealing with imagery, a lot of it was kind of surface level for me, where there was a good concept there, like a good core concept, but I just wish there had been a couple more editing passes to go back and really expand on something, or find a more, I don't know, a deeper way to deal with it. Like, I think you could still do the imagery of the rotting apples and the maggots. I felt that was really visceral and good. It's just that it's kind of poignant that the barrel was just kind of stuck in the middle of the room, because it's like, here's the metaphor, there it is, instead of incorporated more into the environment. I wish there had been, maybe worms coming out of the walls and they were distinctly, like, I don't know, hinted to be applewood or something. Just something a little more where it was mixed in a bit more, the way that Silent Hill does with its environments. I would have liked.
See, I thought that the barrel was going to be like cider, and that she realized that she was really thirsty and take a swig and it was full of rotten apple bits or something like that. The idea that something looks brilliant but is actually not, just like her herself. Plus it would have referenced back to she put the wrong bushel in the cider press.
See, I love that you brought that up. So for context, this was very rushed. This was back when Lost was going through. How many fics were going on at the time? I think 4 or 5.
No, this was part of Beloved's thing, where basically Mag wrote everything, because why not?
Yeah,
I remember.
But you were like editing everything. It was nuts, because we were
insane.
working on a bunch of them at once.
I think it was a total of 5 different stories we were working on, and this was the headliner. So yeah.
I remember a week beforehand, because we were working on Vampirelance as well, and you came to me a week beforehand and said, I'm not going to get the lines in because I haven't even started editing my own yet.
Yeah, I was drowning.
It's funny you bring that up, Scribbler, because one of the things looking back after we finished that I wish we had done was something similar to that. Instead of doing the barrel, I wish that we would have had like either a cider mug or something off on the side, and you would have heard the sounds of the maggots, and it would have drawn her over, but it would have been faint, like she couldn't quite tell, and she would see it, go to drink, and then she gets a mouthful. Because looking at it initially, it'll look like it's cider. She takes a drink, and the top layer is cider, but underneath of it is rotten apple and maggots, and she gets a mouthful of it, and then it's just that visceral, oh god, this isn't what I expected, and it wasn't so in your face. But it's one of those things that, yeah, we did multiple edits, but it was very fast paced, and we kept switching between fics, and yeah, it was definitely a missed opportunity, but best we could do in the moment.
I mean, it's interesting to have you two on the podcast to give us an insight into the writing techniques and things. Luckily, this was a pretty good fic, so we've not been doing our usual, this is shit moment that usually gets me in trouble with authors.
It's okay. Like I said, Mag is expecting to hear that she's trash. She knows.
But she's not trash. Like, there's room for improvement, but that could be said of anyone. Nothing's perfect.
And I mean, come on. Like, we don't always completely trash the fics that we review. It's just there's a lot of points where authors handle topics we have very strong opinions on.
There's only been one where we did trash it a lot, and it was the Octoscratch one. Remember? Vampire Vinyl.
Wait, which one was?
Yeah.
My roommate is a vampire.
Oh, I wasn't there for that one.
No, you weren't. We absolutely tore it to shreds. It was my choice. I'd made a mistake. I'd not read it before, so I suggested it because it would force me to actually read it, and then it turned out to be shit.
What was the Lyrebon one? We were so mean.
I still like that one. Bonafide.
That's the one.
Cygnus absolutely tore that one a new arsehole. I didn't think it was as bad as all that.
They never do.
We just found a lot of things to say about it as well. I think.
Yeah. So the fact that we've had this discussion, but it's still largely been positive, is in this fic's favour, because we are a bunch of nitpicky bastards. Like, we fully own this concept of, we do pick them to pieces. But the things that we've been picking to pieces have more context because you two are here.
Yes.
Woo.
Your usual level of enthusiasm there, Lyle.
Context. It's great. So one question I did want to have on the whole imagery and foreshadowing, the whole newspaper trope, did that seem tired to y'all? Was that something that worked for you? Like the fact that they kept showing up and then it was building towards the fact that the dates were getting closer and closer?
It worked for me. Not knowing anything about the actual 1408, it worked for me. I kind of wish that instead of getting the fabric out of the cupboard, Rarity had set fire to the newspapers. Just because it felt
that
like...
would have been... Yeah, that would have been good.
It felt to me like that's what she was building to. So when she got out the fabric, I was like, what are you doing? There's paper right there.
Yeah, fabric does not burn that easily.
Yeah.
It's literally destroying your own fate and rejecting destiny.
Oh,
that would have been good.
That would have been bitchin', damn it.
And it would also use what the house had placed there for her too, so it would have been striking back at the house with its own stuff.
Yeah. That's honestly where I thought it was going. I thought that was the purpose behind the newspapers, was kind of the hubris of the house, that it's using these things to torture her and then she uses it to torch them.
Knowing what I know now, where Applejack was actually the manifestation of the house trying to like drive her crazy, but Rarity is downstairs and, she comes back upstairs and everything is clean and it's not the way it was. And, Applejack, the evil house, is trying to be like, oh, that's weird. It's spooky, Rares. But Applejack just keeps thinking that, Pinkie Pie's throwing a surprise party and like cleaned up the house like while they were distracted. I could just imagine the house just being all frustrated, just going, ooh, it's everything scares. Like, no, it's a surprise party. Where are you guys? Come out. Like, God dang it, Rares. Can't you see this is some spooky poltergeist shit? You're supposed to be crazy and slowly using your mind so I can eat your soul.
So I'm just imagining Apple just going, this bitch.
See, all I'm thinking of is that gif of AJ going like, ooh, it's spooky. Like, that's all
Wiggly
I'm thinking
fingers.
of right now. Yeah, the wiggly thing.
See, you have your entire April thing now, is just taking the outtakes from this of what should have actually happened.
God damn it.
That was the fic I chose last time with all everybody in the Everfree Forest turned out to be ponies who had died of that swamp fever sickness or whatever. And I was like, that wasn't that well done. And Sunny was just like, yeah, that could have just been the whole fic. Spooky wiggly fingers. So I'm still incensed by that.
Did anybody else have anything to say on imagery and foreshadowing? We have been recording for like over 2 hours. Ilya, go on.
A couple of things. I don't recall. Have we mentioned the fireplace?
Nope.
Well, it was
the fact that she wouldn't set a
She
fire
wouldn't
in it,
light a
that's
fire
it.
in the fireplace. It was cold and it was moldy. If anyone's ever been in a house that's burned from the water and the rain, it's always moldy in a burned down house. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that was in there. The other thing I think of is in the barrel full of apples. I think it would have been much better if they were burned. Because burned corpses don't have a lot of rot to them. Burned corpses usually just ash.
Burning apples smell delicious, though. That's
That could have been part of it. I
That
smell burning apples.
rotten apples. So you're like, yeah, I smell an apple pie. No.
That's all I've got.
So I'm just imagining Applejack made into a pie.
I mean...
Next, Grimdark. Pony cannibalism. Sunny can walk you through it because apparently she fucking loves that Riverbed Village story.
Ooh, I am so glad you finished off
I can't believe somebody hasn't done it.
with Riverbed Village because I was like, what?
Cupcakes.
It's the only cannibalism story anybody's done.
No.
Well, somebody should do one with the whole pie family. Instead of calling it cupcakes, call it pies. Would work.
Oh, yeah.
That would work. Anything else to be said on imagery and foreshadowing? Because I really want to talk about the ending thing. I've already brought this up before now, but I just want to know people's opinions on which ending they would have preferred. No, okay. It's not quite 3 seconds from now's rule, but it'll do. Okay, thoughts on the endings. I've already said that, to me, the fact that Sweetie Belle is the ending makes it not a grimdark for me. Who thinks that it should have ended with the
Me.
fire? And who's okay with the letter with the Sweetie Belle? Go on then, Sunny. Why do you think it should have ended with the fire?
Throwing Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo in there at the end just kind of felt like they were just crammed in where they didn't fit. Like, I get that it was supposed to be a more hopeful tone, I felt, of them picking up from her mistakes and moving on, but it a lot of this fic just feels like shipping for shipping's sake sometimes. I hate to say it. It just felt like, and now we shall ship Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle because they shall be shipped. Like, I didn't see why they needed to be there. They really were only there to show that Rarity's letter had gotten out, and I think it would have been much stronger if we didn't know.
I agree with you. As much as the Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo ending did give it a more hopeful tone, I think we should have ended with the fire. I would have been happier if we'd heard Rarity's voiceover reading the letter as it burned. So, like, we hear it as the flames take over, and then it ends, and we don't know whether or not anything happened.
God damn it, why are you coming up with such good ideas? Fuck. The biggest reason why I know that the letter scene got added at the end was because Mag has this tendency of wanting to tie up all the loose ends. I know that that's something prose-wise that she does. And sometimes that's a good thing, but for horror's sake, it's not necessarily, it kind of works against it. But
Apple Sleep experiment.
Yeah, Apple Sleep is kind of is an example of that. But
she did it really well, because we do not know if Apple Bloom survived.
No, we don't know. But like with this, it was like the idea. I think she wanted to end on that note of, oh, Sweetie Belle did get the letter. It was I think she wanted to end on the positive note. At least that's what the assumption I got. Now that I'm like, because it's been a few years. But now that I'm hearing all this, I'm thinking like, fuck, that would have been the whole shit burning down, and then you just hear the letter, and you don't even fucking know if Sweetie got it. And been like, that would have been beautiful. Fuck, it's wasted.
Well, it would have had the same emotional impact, because you wouldn't have had to change the letter at all.
Yeah,
we still would have gotten Sweetie Belle has been writing to Rarity saying, I've got these unrequited feelings, my friend, what should I do? And then we think that the whole cycle is starting over, that Sweetie Belle's going to make the same mistakes, and that's more tragic because she didn't get that piece of advice.
Yeah, no, like that's why I'm like, fuck, that would have been but like I said, it's not, that's in hindsight, and it's one of those things. But no, I agree with you. That would have definitely been a better ending.
See, clearly you need to come to us and like have us all workshop your next one in Mumble first.
Right?
We can totally do that if you want. Just like, okay, here's the Halloween reading. Please, here it is, rip it to shreds in Mumble.
The only thing is that I wish if we could get the things done in time.
Hang on.
That's what we're doing now. No. That's what we're working on this year, aren't we, Lost?
Yes,
we're working on it now.
Time management and not being a procrastinating shit. That's pretty much what I'm working on this year.
That's why I made a Friendship is Tragic server, so that people can go, oh, I'm so excited. And I'm like, shit, I'll actually do something.
Right. Mood.
Yeah, no, I'm keeping them on track this year, and we're starting on October now already. So it'll be great this year, and Lost won't have to have a mental breakdown this time.
Right.
That'd be great. Are
nice.
you please going to just slip some songs in there as well, because they are a bit easier to get away with than big thick readings, 5 of them in a month.
Yes, actually.
To pick now of all times to work on your time management. What fucking irony.
Right.
So anybody else have any thoughts on the endings then before we move on? Because I know Sunny really wants to talk about the next point.
Do I?
I'm sorry, can I make a very quick point? Sort of an intermediary point that's not on the doc.
Yeah.
My French is rusty, but Pomme means apple, yes?
It's the Apple Boutique.
That's all, thank you.
Which, the name La Pomme Boutique, to begin with, I misinterpreted completely, because I think it's German where pommes frites is like French fries. So, La Pomme Boutique, I've heard, they just called pommes to me like chips, French fries. So it was like, the French fried, the chip boutique? What?
She opens a McDonald's?
Hell yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, it's French. Right, okay. Because my brain automatically goes to a different language, apparently.
Well, they did fry the boutique.
Oh my God.
Sorry. I frightened the cat with that one, sorry.
Is he looking at you with disdain, like, how dare you wake me up?
Yeah, he's looking like, what? But it's getting dark here, so I can just see his eyes, like, peering out of the gloom, like, you bitch. Sorry. Any other thoughts on the endings, or can we move on to the ship?
I'm good.
Onto the ship.
Onto the ship. Sunny, then, the ship. Thoughts on the portrayal of Rarity here? You have feelings about this. Go on.
This isn't a Rarity. I had a lot more feelings on this before I knew that Applejack at no point in this story was actually Applejack, but knowing what I know now, this isn't a Rarity, so I don't really have a lot of thoughts on it beyond there were parts, particularly when they were arguing, that were in character enough where not shipping them, it kind of set off some negative vibes for me because I was starting to get critical of it trying to be portrayed as a romance. And then it was clarified later that it wasn't meant to be romantic. So I didn't have any reason to criticize it. My only major criticism is it assumes you ship Rarity, and it does nothing to sell their relationship.
Just for clarification on people, you really don't like Rarity as a ship, do you?
No.
Can you summarize why? Just for people who don't know, why do you not like Rarity as a ship? Just to understand why the fic assuming that you like Rarity going in doesn't work for you.
So I find their relationship to be very toxic. Even in canon, I think they are constantly at each other's throats in a very unhealthy way. And they do resolve it by the end of the episode, but the writers really rely on them constantly miscommunicating, constantly being in fights, constantly disrespecting each other. And that baseline disrespect for each other's lifestyle is just not a healthy basis for a relationship, in my opinion. And the fandom portrayal of them, especially Applejack's feeling on the matter, is very problematic for me, especially being a butch lesbian who has been in a relationship with a very femme person who was very cruel. The vibes of Applejack saying she doesn't want it and then being told she does is just not my thing at all. So going into any Rarity fic, it really needs to be sold to me that this is a healthy relationship, because my baseline is that it is very much not.
So I just thought it was important that people get that context for your opinions on the portrayal here and why it not being a Rarity works better for you. How do you feel about it being portrayed as a friendship then? If we take out the revelation at the end that Rarity had these unrequited feelings for Applejack, does the story work any better as a Rarity friendship story?
No, I actually think it works perfectly as a Rarity, because Rarity's feelings, and this isn't because I hate the ship. I tried very specifically not to judge this fic just because I disliked the ship. I wanted to give it the chance to sell me on them as a couple in the fic and to really feel for the bits of romance I thought it was trying to push. It didn't do that for me, but I still tried not to judge it just on the fact that it's a ship I don't like. I think it actually works for it that it's a Rarity because I perceive their relationship as very toxic, and Applejack, her presence in Rarity's life and Rarity's reaction to her were so toxic that it completely consumed her and it destroyed her in the end. And I think that is pretty on point.
So I wanted to start with you because I knew that was coming. Lost. How do you feel about this then? Because I know you're a massive Rarity shipper. So going into this, you knowing that it's a Rarity from the off, and the assumption from the fic and from the prose that everybody going into it is okay with Rarity. Do you think it works as a Rarity, even in a requited one?
I think it works as one-sided Rarity. Actually, is what the way that I've always a trope that I like. And I know I'm guilty of it, is the unrequited love and the idea that you don't know what you have until it's gone. It's that idea. And the struggle that Rarity goes throughout the whole story of finally hitting that epiphany of, oh God, I just never fucking told her. And the regret and the guilt that goes along with it. I like it in that sense. Because it is only one-sided. We really don't get AJ's perception. There's a scene specifically where AJ's talking to Twilight, and you find it about her breaking up with Rainbow, and Rarity didn't know that. Like it's like, if now, because after I talked to Mag too, she's like, yeah, that scene is all a fabrication of Rarity's mind. And so it's almost like, did AJ actually ever break up with Rainbow? Because that was the joke the joke about this story too that Mag and I were going into when she was discussing the story concept with me was that, oh, we're gonna break up Appledash, ha 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 ha. That was the joke. But when I really thought
Adding
about
Mag to my ship list.
I've always been a firm believer that everybody can have their ships and like we can all be adults and not be shitbags about it. I've always been a firm believer of that, and I may joke with other people too. No, I know. And like I said, like we can joke around and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I can always be respectful. Like, oh, okay, I can see that. Like I used to be a massive Flutterdash shipper. Like I used to fucking ship the shit out of them. And then now I ship shit out of Pinky and Rainbow because of Mag and I. Like it's just, there are certain things, but Rarity has always been one of those that I've always held dear because I really like their dynamics. But the overall though, like when it comes to it is only one-sided because Rarity does not really know where the hell Applejack actually stood. That's the thing. It's the idea of the what ifs, the regret. And that's something I really like, the idea of a person self-reflecting and being forced to confront the idea of the what ifs. It's that. That's my thing. I like that. That's not, but getting back to the point of everyone who's going into it knowing it's a Rarajack, I was working off of that because obviously like the thumbnail, if you look at all the artwork for it, I'm leaning on those laurels of the person who's going to be watching this is going to be going in as a Rarajack shipper. I'm not trying to convert anybody in that idea, or at least I don't think Mag was either, the idea, because it's not, why am I going to do that, especially we're into 10 years into this fucking thing now.
I will say I think it is vital, even for something you ship, to still sell the ship. You can assume that people are going to ship it, but you never know in what way they're going to ship it. So just a personal thing for me, even if you're writing a ship fic and you expect your audience will already ship them, I do prefer that it be shown why they work or why your reader should believe them working in the context of the fic. And I wish that this fic had tried a bit harder at that.
Ilya, what do you think about the shipping in this story?
I have only one opinion. There are 3 hot mares. Luna and Nightmare Moon by proxy, Celestia and Maud Pie. Any other ships just don't interest me.
Maud Pie is a new one on there. I expected that last one to be Chrysalis.
Brand new for me also. Yeah.
Right?
This is a new side
so
of you.
Hot.
Applejack was pretty hot in this.
Oh my god.
Yeah, well, Rarity as well by the end.
So on that note.
Neighrator, your thoughts on the ship?
I don't thinking. I guess I don't have as strong. I guess I never had as strong feelings about the ship itself. In general, so I don't have very strong feelings on ships in general. I guess I might be a bad one to ask. I'll pass this one actually.
You just favor polyamorous shippings.
I don't know why you would assume that.
No, totally, no reason whatsoever.
So how did you feel about the Apple Dash scene then? When you first read it, how did that read to you? I was asking NP just because he didn't have any thoughts on the Rarajack. I wanted him to have something to say.
Go on, NP.
I'm sorry to disappoint. I don't think I have anything to add there either.
See, I do, and it's because I've had my mind changed in this podcast. Because I came into this hating that scene, and in the end, because it's now been pointed out to me, it might well be a fabrication of Rarity's mind, so that she could feel even worse about not telling Applejack how she felt. I am more accepting of it because it does seem like something Rarity would do. I find it intensely tragic that she's invented this version of reality where Applejack specifically called it off with Rainbow Dash and requited Rarity's feelings if she'd only had the courage to say them. But in reality, Applejack might have gone on to have a wonderful, happy life with Rainbow Dash, who is also hugely broken up by the fact that her mare friend fucking died. I wish we got some of Rainbow Dash's perspective on this, because clearly, even in the fabrication, from Rarity's point of view, Rainbow Dash was ignoring it because she still liked Applejack. I want to know how she felt when Applejack burned to death.
Sequel.
Nobody cares about her. This is not her. This is not her story.
Sequel.
Yeah, but the sequel could be.
Lol.
Implying there'll ever be a sequel, but okay.
Lost Rat sequel.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yay!
I don't know.
Rainbow Dash goes to the house to see where Rarity burned it all down.
God damn it.
And she finds herself drawn into, I don't know, the burned out wreckage of the house and sucked into a new reality through all the wreckage. Because the house is now a zombie house.
Hashtag zombie house.
Hashtag zombie house. That actually does just become Monster House, doesn't it? Because it was built on a dead body.
Yes, that's all it becomes.
So the wreckage of the house just rises up and starts trying to eat Rainbow Dash.
Rainbow
God.
Dash learns how to weaponize the sonic rainbow and wreaks havoc in the world.
Yep. Ends with RD being queen of everything.
I mean, okay.
Okay.
Niall, what do you think about
Alrighty. So, to preference, I am a huge fan of Rarejack. I also agree with a lot of what Sunny said, though. From especially early in the series perspective, and some episodes stand out, especially the one where Rarity brings on Applejack as I think it was a judge for one of her fashion shows, and like just the absolute disrespect she has there. It is very easy to write Rarejack as toxic, and there have been a lot of those things within the fandom. And with this, kind of like what Lost was saying, I don't really see this as a Rarejack fic. It's couched as a Rarejack fic, but I feel like this is more of a Rarity losing herself fic and wants to be in a relationship with Applejack, but like, yeah, there's no real characterization. And I think to the point of, you know, Sunny, you talking about wanting to characterize it that they should be together. I feel like we stayed away from that because we didn't want that to be the assumption. The assumption is that Rarity wants to be with her, but it's up to the reader to try and decide whether or not they think it should be good. And there's not enough information given because this isn't really about whether or not they should be shipped together. This is about kind of her falling apart, because it's not just, and I think a lot of people miss this. This isn't just about her unrequited love with Applejack and also Applejack and her family burning, but like she is empty. She doesn't have anything that's really pushing her forward. The whole thing with Hoity Toity having a divorce, I believe, and Lost, correct me, the implication was that she was the cause of that divorce.
Oh, that did not come through.
No, in the editing process, that was something that was supposed to, but it did not end up in the final draft. I do remember that.
Yeah, it was kind of a back and forth thing, and the idea is that she's lost. She doesn't know, not lost specifically, but she is essentially on a spiral, and she doesn't know what she's doing. And so, yeah, we're using kind of like there's this Rarejack kind of element there, but the focus of the story is more on Rarity. And I know that can be confusing, but I like that because I feel like it gives a good show into Rarity's character. Because once again, going back to the show, whenever Rarity has something that challenges her, or whenever Rarity has something that goes wrong, it's usually one of two things. It's either, oh, woe is me, cry, or she becomes very bitter for a short amount of time. And it usually takes somebody coming back in to kind of reset her a little bit. But yeah, as far as the ship goes, I don't feel like this is really a ship piece, in my opinion. I feel like the ship is implied in there, but I feel like Lost said it's one-sided. It's more of the push of, hey, Rarity wants this, but it's because Rarity doesn't know what the hell she wants, because she's essentially going through like kind of a midlife crisis, thrown on with all of this guilt and everything else that happened because she's blaming herself for something that may or may not have been her fault. And that's why she's a perfect victim. House is feeding off of that.
I think it could have worked a little bit better if Rarity was shown to have some attraction to the phantom Applejack. You know, she looked lovingly into Applejack's eyes, or she noticed how Applejack did this or that. That would have been a nice little bit there.
I'm sorry. Can we go back a second?
Well, go on.
Did I miss something, or was I made to understand that like Rarity caused it sort of implied that Rarity caused Fleur de Lis and Hoity Toity's divorce. Was Rarity fucking
Fancy Pants.
Hoity Toity?
That was a workshopped idea. It was it was left on the cutting room floor. It did not end up in the fic. Now, from like I said, from the creative standpoint, that was something we were working with, but it did not end up in the fic.
Because she sort of mentions that there were when she's sort of monologuing to Applejack's like, oh yes, there were others. Yeah, there were others. Like, oh, she was fucking Fancy Pants. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
that was a route we started down, but didn't really come to full fruition. But
Interesting. Nice to get the interesting to hear the director's cut edition.
See, I would have liked that to be in because it would have made Rarity very flawed, but also feed into that idea of she was salving herself because she felt like she ought to, rather than lust after Applejack, who was involved with someone.
That also makes the idea that she was so distracted and ruined the cider because she was reading the gossip rag, which was very
Feeling
interesting to her
responsible for
because,
that. Yeah. It's
yeah,
like,
because
oh shit, I caused that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, Lust, I wish you'd left that back in. I wish you had.
Oh yeah, like I said, the editing process for this was rushed, so like getting this is like, oh, like yeah, I should have kept that shit in, or should have, like, you know, it is what it is now, you know.
Just saying, you got a room full of editors here.
Right.
And you can tell from this, if we think it's bad, we'll say so, but we'll also say how to improve it. Does anybody else have anything to say about the ship?
So I actually have 4 points.
Go on.
3 of them are in response to Niall.
That's good, because I'm going to BRB for a second, so MP's in charge.
Okay, I'll probably be blabbering that amount of time, MP. You don't gotta worry about it. So I have 4 points. 3 of them are in response to Niall, and then 1 is just my thoughts on the Apple Dash part. I guess I'll get the Apple Dash out of the way. Just really quickly, I hated that scene. I did. In retrospect, I understood what it was doing because I had gotten the authorial intent of Rarity being completely warped by the house and her memories being used against her and new things being fabricated to hurt her. But out of that context, when that has not been explicitly stated to you, it does just read as random ship hate. That's fine. You know, it's fine if people don't like Apple Dash. But it seemed so out of place, so sudden and random. And the reasoning just felt like the author turning to the camera and saying, this is why I do not ship Apple Dash. This is why I want them to break up and Rarity is better. And I know that's not what's going on, but just because I was told that's not what's going on. When I read it, that was a big complaint for me, is it really just seems like out of left Apple Dash hate because the writer doesn't like Apple Dash. It does not work with the story at all. I really think it needed to be incorporated more. And this kind of goes back to, I don't necessarily want this to be a Rarity shipfic, obviously, because I don't ship Rarity, but also because I don't think it needed to be a shipfic. I like that it was one-sided, and I like that Rarity was toxic in this. I wish that it had done more to establish that Rarity is in love with Applejack and why, so that I could believe that she loves her and that her reasons were so motivating, that this driven and confident and very fulfilled person otherwise would completely trash her entire life and become this simpering void because someone she wasn't even with, who she was trying to get over, died in a thing that really wasn't even her fault. And she lost other friends too, and there was nothing touched on that. And it really needed to be sold to me because I'm not a Rarity shipper and I don't have that context in my brain. And in fact, I'm constantly looking at them as being bad for each other. It needed to be sold to me that Rarity loved Applejack so intensely and that their relationship was so good, or that she didn't understand that it wasn't good to such an extent that it completely ruined her life, and she let it completely ruin her life. And that kind of goes into my last point about what Niall said with regards to how Rarity is interpreted here. Part of why I think it might have been flanderized so heavily for me is because I think that's kind of a really flanderized interpretation of Rarity's reaction to hardship. Yes, she's dramatic. Yes, she pulls out her fainting couch and eats tubs of ice creams over the smallest thing going wrong. But like I said earlier, I don't remember if Niall was here or not. Lauren Faust specifically tried really hard to fight that characterization of Rarity overtaking her character, because in moments of seriousness where it really matters, she pulls through, no question, because that's all dramatics she does on purpose. She's intentionally very dramatic and very exaggerated, and she knows when to drop that. And I think we do see that in the show, and we don't see that here.
I agree with you on all those points. The only, I guess, and once again, not trying to say you're wrong or anything, just trying to explain the perspective. I don't feel like the driving force, and we had some talk about this, is necessarily just her pining for Applejack. The driving force in this piece is that she feels like she killed her best friend and her family. And I think that's more of the concept here. It's the reason she's withdrawn. It's the reason that she's in so much pain. I feel like the whole her being enamored with Applejack or whatever. And I agree with you. If we wanted to push that harder, we should have had some kind of a flashback or foreshadowing or something like that. But I feel like the idea of this piece was more the grief, and also, like, she's not just having a short little thing. She feels like that grief is solely on her shoulders. Whether or not she's right or not, we all know that in real life, people will saddle grief, whether or not it really is there. And I feel like when we were going through the editing piece of this, the main reason is that if she hadn't had that fight and distracted Applejack, she could have been paying attention to the lantern that she set, and the lantern is essentially what burns down the house. So the idea is that she starts the chain of events that cause it, and that's the only kind of I wouldn't even say counterpoint, just kind of explanation I would have with this idea. Is it goes beyond just, oh, she's having a pity party and she's having ice cream. She's literally blaming herself for the death of four of her friends, a family that she cared about. And Rarity is one of those characters that never likes to put on anybody. It's kind of like dress for success. She will hold it in and try to make everything good as long as she can. And it's a little bit of that. She's removing herself because she doesn't want anybody else to deal with the negative emotions she's had. But also, like, she has PTSD from both fire and the death of her friends and her home, because there's once again a monument there of what's going on. But I can totally see how you see it that way. And yeah, if we wanted to go more with the ship, I believe we should have done, like I said, some better background of that. It would have helped a lot.
Yeah, I guess that's my major problem, is it feels stuck between her motivations. It's trying to push Rarajack as the main reason why she's in such grief, but it either needed to really commit to Applejack being the reason, the driving force for why she's so upset, and really selling her love for Applejack and that being so all-encompassing, or it needed to lean away from the ship more into Rarity being upset about the multiple deaths that she feels she caused. Maybe having Apple Bloom show up with Applejack, or, just more motifs of the other apples to show that their deaths are weighing on her too, because as it stands, it's really just Applejack, and then the other ones are kind of a footnote of, yeah, they died too. Yeah, they were there. Fuck them.
Gotcha. So 2 watered down doesn't commit to either one, and it just makes it all muddled.
Yeah, and then there was another point, damn it. Oh no, I was really, really excited to make that point, but I forgot it. Fuck.
You forgot your point? Okay. That's a bit different than you feel bad about not saying it. Anybody else have anything to say about the ship? Nope. I mean, if we want, we can just skip over the next one. The thing with Red Herring, his name, I just thought that was a little bit too on point. It's like, oh, he's the one behind all of this, but his name is literally Red Herring.
Yeah.
Lost, was that a joke? Or was that we were meant to actually be distracted and thought he was actually behind it?
I don't know, actually. I don't remember. I didn't really have any process in the naming for the OCs, so I actually do not remember whether...
I think it was meant to be tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah,
Right.
that might
To
have
be
been
honest.
a tongue-in-cheek thing. I'm
Yeah.
assuming, because I know, like, if Mag does something like that, it's usually like, oh, but I don't.
In what way was this character a red herring, a literal red herring in the story?
I thought it was meant to be showing that like he was maybe the one haunting the place.
Because he was named
I
Red
didn't
Herring.
get that impression.
Because he was named Red Herring
Oh my
for me,
gosh.
I at no point thought that, so it completely fell flat because once you point out that it's a red herring,
Exactly.
it's not a red herring.
Exactly. That's why I thought like, were we meant to take him seriously? Was it a joke? If it's a joke in a grimdark, it was a weird place to put it. I wasn't sure also because one of the flower seller character was called Merryweather, and this was like, I was like, oh, that's one of the scriptwriters for Magpiepony, Merryweather Williams. And I wasn't sure if that was
No,
an
that definitely
accident.
wasn't intentional. I
See,
don't.
but you can see why the two names together was like, is there a naming convention going on here and I'm just missing it?
I don't like. That's something I'll have to ask Mag on. I actually do not know because I'm thinking like, because he was the detective and I'm pretty sure she was the one who named him. I'm more than positive. So
Was his partner just called Q?
yes, I think.
So like Q and A.
I
Red herring and Q and A. Right.
I don't know the naming process for this one. Oh,
I can see Merryweather slipping by and being a complete accident. It just made me laugh of Q. Like LGBTQ.
I mean, I don't know. That is something I'll actually have to ask because I don't know. Like I said, when she wrote this actually in a day. Now that I'm thinking about it, she sat down and wrote this whole thing in a day.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, no, Mag is pretty, like, if she's like, oh, I'm going to write this, she'll sit down and just crank it out. Like, she's pretty good about that. But I don't know what inspired why she named him Red Herring. I don't know.
If she sat and didn't plan ahead, maybe she did have plans for him to be something else.
Maybe. I can see that happening. Because like I said, I know when she writes for certain ideas, she won't have an outline. She is notorious for not having an outline. And then usually myself and I'll have to help her and be like, no, we need structure. But for this, yeah, there might have been a further plot device for Red Herring, but I don't know. I just assumed Merryweather was a pun on the fact, like, I don't know.
Because she was a flower seller, so Merryweather and Sunnyweather didn't really fit with flowers.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I honestly, that's something I can't speak on because I just don't know.
Yeah, see? Sparked a conversation. Okay, so that was literally all I wanted to talk about with naming conventions, unless anybody else has anything to ask. That was pure curiosity on my point. What was and was not real? Now, Ilya, you made this point. This is the final point before we go into final thoughts. So, Ilya, what do you mean by what was and was not real?
Well, normally we ask this sort of question in the absence of any author representatives because we want to know a little bit more about the story. But I'm going to ask it anyway, in the spirit of the fact that, to me, poetry does not belong to the poet; it belongs to the people who read it. And in a sense, stories don't belong to the author so much as they belong to the people who read the stories, because that's what contextualizes your life. So there were things to this that didn't strike me as real. For example, I'm not convinced that the house was haunted, that there were any spirits or demons or dead people haunting the house. A lot of it, to me, could have just been stuff that appeared in Rarity's mind because of the extreme grief she was under and the post-traumatic stress could have just caused it all. And all
That's
that would
a
have
good
had
point.
all that would have had to been was perhaps previous owners, perhaps not, newspapers that inspired her to think certain ways. So I just wondered if it's possible that there was no haunting at all.
Lost?
I'm actually stuck in a thought because I'm just thinking like, holy shit, that would be fucking mind blowing. Like if that was the case. I've always assumed, because if Mag is taking directly from 1408, it is implied within that story that the hotel room is haunted. So I was always under the impression that the boutique is haunted. But now that I'm getting this new perspective, I'm thinking like, what if it was all just one massive fucking psychosis? Like that would be a trip of.
Do you not remember us talking about this at the end?
Everything, you know how I am. If it
okay. So yeah, for reference, like that was one of the things that was fun once we got to the end of this, was the question of did Fluttershy visit at all or did she not?
Exactly.
Was it real or was it not? And was this just a mental breakdown on Rarity's point or was it not? Yeah, those were three fun things that like after we were done working on it, it's like depending on how you read it or how you interpret it, there's a couple of different ways you can go with it and it completely changes the portrayal of how it went. That's what I've loved in seeing the comments from the fic reading that Lost has on their channel, because there's all three of those interpretations, and I love it when people who listen to it or read it have the reaction of like, well, was she there or was she not? Was Fluttershy there or was she not? And I've seen at least 2 or 3 on there that are like, did Rarity just have a psychosis and burn herself down? And like, it's I enjoy that part of the fic. But yeah, I know when we finished. Yeah, well, when we originally finished it, we had a small conversation, but once again, we were dealing with 4 other fics. And
I was gonna say, I think that's why I don't remember that conversation, because I think at that point everything was a blur.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, and I wasn't sucked in as badly as you all were, because I only got on for the editing calls, and then you all had to go put the damn things together. So yeah, there was a lot of that, but I remember us having a distinct conversation on that at the end, with going like, oh man, depending on how you interpret this, it completely changes the whole thing.
There are crap loads of comments and people just flat out saying like, what was any of it actually real? There are a good chunk that I've seen. A lot of people also saying like I cried, and a lot of other freaking comments. But the big one is the discussions of whether or not any of it was real. So yeah.
Does anybody else have anything to comment on that? Sorry, I'd gone to get a piece of vegetarian jerky because my blood sugar was going. Sorry.
So I obviously did talk to Mag about this a little bit. I didn't want to like spoil it too hard, but I just asked some quick clarification things, and then she clarified some things on her own. She did tell me explicitly that Fluttershy was real. So that was pretty much the only other real pony in the fic besides the ending. And I remembered my point from earlier. It was about the reality and Rarity's perception. When nothing is real, next to nothing, like her relationship with Applejack in the fic and all of the scenes with Applejack and all that, when none of that is real and there's nothing to ground it in reality, it makes her a completely unreliable narrator, and that weakens anything that's trying to hint of what actually happened to me, because it makes it almost impossible to interpret. When I first read the fic, I did assume that there was a point where Applejack was the real Applejack, obviously dead, but still the real Applejack, and she was slowly corrupted by being in the house, and Rarity's grief bringing Applejack there was corrupting her the more Rarity imposed her desires on Applejack's memory. But, I obviously know that wasn't the case. But that was my initial read, is that it was half real and half not.
Now that Ilya mentions it, though, I think the fic would have worked equally well if there wasn't an evil house and it was literally all just in Rarity's mind. Like, I don't think he would have had to change the story hardly at all.
I mean, death of the author, not literally, lost, not actually wishing death on your wife, but death of the author. What?
We are killing the gays.
Not the reaction I was expecting.
It's a joke. .jpg.
Yeah, but even so, death of the author. It can mean whatever we want it to mean. As much as Mag has authorial intent, you have to take the text as the text. Excuse me. Oh my god. Sorry.
Speaking of death of the author, I think Scribbler just died. So
right?
Nice,
are you okay?
Nothing bad. And don't laugh. I choked on a burp.
What?
Okay, but how?
I burped and coughed at the same time, so I choked a bit.
But why?
Why? Because I drink Pepsi Max and it's very carbonated.
Make your point.
Fine.
I'm sorry.
I'm fine. I just didn't think you all wanted to hear that particular bodily
The
expulsion.
chicken exploded.
To bring it all the way back around. Oh my god. Yeah, death of the author. It can mean whatever the fuck you want it to. Mag may have all these intentions, but as we've established, it belongs to the reader once it's out in the world. Ta-da!
Very good, Scribbler. Clap,
There we
clap,
go.
clap.
I don't know what you're expecting
Head pat
next.
dog treat.
I
Are
mean,
we
do we?
there yet?
I think we might have to call it quits because we've been recording more than 3 hours.
I'd be good with that.
4
Does
by my
anybody-
reckoning.
Yeah, it's 3 hours for this bit of the recording. Does anyone have anything they want to add to Ilya's final point before we go into final thoughts?
I think it's definitely a valid interpretation that it could all be in her head. I think the different interpretations you can have of the fic are one of its strongest points. I don't think I would have preferred for it to have just been all in her head because that's not my favorite horror trope, but you could definitely read it that way.
It was all a dream. Or the other well-used one, she woke up in a mental asylum.
Oh, God.
Tell me that's not a well-worn trope for this kind of thing. All these
Oh,
wonderful
no, it
things
is.
happened. Oh, no, shit, she's literally just in a straitjacket. Okay.
Better yet, she just burns herself down in some random place.
Applejack's actually completely fine, and she burned down Sweet Apple Acres herself because she had a psychotic break.
Oh
Someone
my
else
God.
wrote the letter.
Or she just walks into like Lyra Bond's house while they're gone and she just imagines it's this. So suddenly they come home from like getting groceries and oh, look, it's a crispy Rarity in what's left of our house. Well, this is unexplainable.
Just bum on there going, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
So on that particular crispy Rarity note, we'll go into final thoughts. So, Ilya, what are your final thoughts on this story?
I think it reads very confusingly, if that's a word, on the first go round. It's much improved after you read it twice, and I really enjoyed it the second time.
Sunny?
I'm the kind of person who, even reading fics on my own, if there's something I don't like about a fic, I'll try to hunt down what the author was thinking. So it's not at all specific to Mag that I just asked her what she had intended. Like I've in the past for fics we reviewed, I've gone to people's blogs or even Twitters and stuff to try and get some thoughts on something they've written. Because I like to not make assumptions about a fic. My initial reading of this fic, I hated it. Fucking hated it. Absolutely hated every part of it. It was not my favorite thing in the world. Having the clarification,
Damn, bitch.
it was a hard sell, and it did not sell any of the things that I was interpreting. But it was because I did not pick up on the context that at no point was Applejack supposed to be herself. Knowing that none of Applejack's scenes were supposed to be real or even intended to be read as in character at points, that really, really helped my interpretation of it. And on a second read, I did like it a lot better. Still some things I think it could have done differently that would have made it stronger. But overall, I went from really not liking it to positively indifferent.
Wow.
Narrator?
Solid fic. 2 thumbs up.
The soul of brevity there. Niall?
I mean, I'm clearly biased because I worked on it, but I feel it was fairly good. I feel like it's one of the first ones that I've worked on with Mag where we were importing some new changes. It's actually a lot of fun working with Lost and Mag because they approach stuff from completely different angles. Both of them have very strong points and very weak points, and I feel like this was one of Mag's first like forays out into some of her description work that was a little bit different because she likes to just say what's happening and not describe it. I feel like it's strong. There's definitely some things that could be improved, but for the time frame and everything, I think it turned out great. Really enjoy it.
Lost?
I mean, I'm clearly not biased. This is actually like if I'm comparing like the different readings that I've done over the years, this is up there as one of my favorites. Just because of the production and everything, and then the topics that it touched on. I really, really like the story, but also hearing all these different perspectives, I'm thinking like, shit, this could have been like freaking amazing if we had done some like other things with it and things like that. And
If you'd had time.
Yes, if I had time. That's the key, the clutcher and all that. But I know, like, this is the one thing, like, when it comes to media and creating, it's the idea of looking at something and knowing that it's not perfect, but still finding the parts that you like. And I'm aware that it's definitely not perfect, but there are parts of it that I do love. And like I said, I do like the trope. The trope of the unrequited love and the idea of the what ifs. I've always liked that trope. And I thought it did it very well. And the tonality as well.
I am just going to reiterate what I said earlier, that I think that this is a solid story. I have a new appreciation for it now at the end of the podcast that I didn't have beforehand, and I actually liked it beforehand. As much as I fucking can't stand Rarity. When I thought this was a straight-up Rarity, it was still strong enough to make me go, that was pretty good. Still hate the ship. Now, better appreciation for what it was trying to do. So, solid 8 out of 10. Right, so before we say goodbye, we're going to go on to pick the next Fic Picker. Now, Niall, do you have a fic already in your head for if you get chosen? Or because if you do, I'll add you to the list for this spin.
So I was going to ask you about that. Is there any kind of context on what
has
this
to be finished. 60,000 words is the upper limit. No clop.
Okay, so it can't be like an installment of a piece.
Not unless it's the first installment.
Yeah, it would be the first installment.
As long as it stands on its own, it's the first installment. Yep, fine. One of mine is that. I've got 10 things open in case I get picked because I couldn't choose a reading.
Then yes, I have one.
All right. Okay, so I'll add you in. So it's me, Ilya, Sunny, Niall, and Neighrator. Have I got that right? So we'll spin. Spin. Oh shit! This is too loud. Fuck. I had to lift my headphones off my head. Oh shit, it's me! Ah! I was too busy going, oh no, I'm going to get deafened, because I know that this app I use is incredibly loud when it gets to it. So, yeah, it's me. Right, okay. That means I need to spin it again with 1 to 10, because I cannot pick a single reading. I have too many that I'd like to discuss for various reasons.
Fake news. Recount.
What? I've literally just put the screenshot in the chat like I always do. You can also see how many tabs I've got open because of different fics. Right, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Continue. No, I've spun it again. No.
How are you so bad at this?
This is difficult.
Because I'm bad at everything.
There's a struggle going on.
There's a struggle going on. I wanted to remove name and start editing, not press the fucking thing to spin again.
That's okay. We'll just wait here.
Well, I'm spinning now with the numbers. This is important. I last got to pick 2 years ago.
Has it really been 2 years since you last picked?
Yep.
It's been 1 year since we've done the last one.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So it's come up as number 1, which is... Let's get this...
Figure out which one number 1 is.
Number 1 is the one at the farthest end, which is Lost Time by Bookplayer, which is an Applejack.
Yes.
Not on purpose. It's also the longest one on my list.
How many words is it?
57,000.
Good
Lord.
Is there a fic reading, hopefully?
Don't know. Hopefully.
I don't think there is. This does not look familiar.
Do you remember when I was going to choose a 60,000 word fic? You're like, no,
Well, she's got a year to
long.
make it.
60,000 is outrageous. And then she was like, oh, 57,000 is fine.
Hang on, no. We agreed that you could have Friendship is Optimal if you got picked. Even though it was over the word count, we agreed you could have it because the entire chat had reached the consensus of, yeah, that's fine.
I'm not sure that's what you said earlier in the call,
She's
but
got you
okay.
there.
Yeah, because I'd forgotten that conversation until you reminded me. I am not perfect. I kicked up a fuss and then realized I was wrong.
There is no reading of this. I was just seeing if there was on YouTube. There is no reading of this.
Sorry.
Oh, great.
I mean, I can pick a different one if you want. It's not like I don't have options.
Fine. It's fine.
It's
you can just have the computer read it. It's fine.
I mean, you just have Lost read it. It's Apple Dash. You can just do whatever your voice.
I could.
You could.
Fuck.
You are not doing that to her. We have other projects to do. Thank you, but no.
I actually own this. I have not finished reading it, but I own this in hard copy from BrodyCon.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am. I fucking love this story. I've only read the first half, so it may be shit in the second half, but I fucking love the first half.
I think we probably ought to schedule this a ways out because it might take me a while to get through 60,000 words.
I can
yeah,
choose
same here.
a different fic if you want. I am not
It's
wedded
fine.
to this. Look. One of the
So what,
stories,
we'll do it next week?
MP. One of the stories was Flutterbox.
We can't
Wait,
do
what?
that.
Hold
We
the-
almost got Flutterbox, okay?
Hold the fuck on. What the hell is Flutterbox?
Where Fluttershy's vagina starts talking to her.
And it's
Wait.
very horny.
I'll take the Applejack.
So Apple Dash isn't so bad.
Can you link me that story? Because now
It's there
I
in the
want to
channel.
fucking...
It's there, Flutterbox.
What the fuck?
It's a stupid sex comedy where Fluttershy is so shy that she hasn't had sex in years, and her vagina wakes up one day and just goes, "What the hell?"
There's so much wasted potential. Fuck.
And I will point out, I did not find this fic on my own. Somebody gave it to me. No, MP.
you-
MP gave it to me. Yes,
no,
I gave it to you, and you
no.
gave it back to me.
Oh, so you gave it to me first.
I don't remember which way round it was, but one of us gave it
You
back to the
gave
other
it to
one.
me first. Twice. I'm not kidding. I have the receipts. You linked me this story twice, and you said I should read it because I could do the great voice impression of Fluttershy's vagina.
I don't remember
So-
that, but it sounds amazing anyway.
Where
with,
the fuck?
with my Danny DeVito voice.
Do you guys have
Yes,
to take
I
a
do
pill
remember.
for that every time? No, giving it back and forth. Was there a shot? Was it painful when you peed?
Oh my god.
We have a history of giving each other wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
For the last
Joy.
9 years, apparently. Ilya, we've been doing fic readings for over 9 years.
Good Lord.
Yeah, because you started before I did, and I started at the end of 2012.
You gotta get off.
So yeah, 9 years of ponyfics.
Oh, I'm totally gonna read this fucking story now. Flutterbox.
It is hilarious.
I did not even know this
Especially if you-
existed.
Especially if you imagine that the vagina talks from Danny DeVito's voice from when
Oh
he
my
played the
God.
Grundle King in MLPG 1. Because we just finished watching the G1 movie
don't
for
be
this.
sad. Not
Not
too
you
bad.
there!
God
That would be
damn it.
amazing.
Can we
Absolutely
please?
amazing.
Oh, I mean, if you want, we could do that one, but I don't think Sunny would be very interested.
Apple
Okay.
Dash isn't so bad.
Okay. Don't be sad, not too bad.
Don't be sad. Not too bad.
Right. With that said, we're going to say goodbye. So, say goodbye from Ilya.
Have a pleasant day, everyone.
Goodbye from Lost.
Oh, but
Do you want to have a second run at that?
did it cut out? Or
Yeah, you should. Oh, but
I love when it cuts out. Oh, bye.
Niall,
Have a wonderful day.
Neighrator Pony,
Good night, everyone.
Sunny,
Oh, thank God, it's finally bedtime.
Yo, Sam.
and, and goodbye from me. Goodbye, everybody. Bye. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
Bye.
I don't want bedtime to come because if bedtime comes, I have to get up in the morning and go to the plague pit.
I feel you.
I was hoping to be in bed asleep about 2.5 hours ago.
That's why
but
I've been
this has
messaging you to see if you're all right.
This has been good discussion, and so that was fun. But I'm gonna go ahead and duck out right this
Yeah.
instant.
Same.
I'll
It's
see you guys
half
later.
7. I need to get some tea and go to bed.
Yeah, I got things to do.
God
So
damn
it's
it.
been lovely seeing you all.
Oh, you're still recording.
Of course, I'm still recording. I record everything.
Okay.
He records you when you're not even here.
Right. Okay. Off you go then, guys. Get some sleep.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
God damn it.
So we'll meet next week, right? Awesome. Bye.
Bye.